Yep.
I am so far behind on my workouts and stuff. I got to get cranking on that again. I am.
Workouts? I haven't done any workouts. I walked like 5 miles. That's it. For the whole weekend.
I gotta get moving. Yeah.
I've just been doing my best to avoid my kitchen since Thursday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think I spent 3 days cooking in preparation for Thanksgiving this year.
I think I was lazy. We could cook. We went away and someone else cooked and we just ate. Yeah.
Well, that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah, we don't get. We had our Thanksgiving in October here in Canada.
Yeah.
It was just Thursday for us.
Yeah.
We'll have the Canadian crew from our community pop on.
Yeah, we can trust Canadians this week.
Canadian Gamer, Rich Lonchitalos, all. Yeah, we got a whole Jim Segia, a whole Prometheus. They're all. Yep. Oh, Canadian's already on. Cool. And then Tumbler's Rifle will probably raid into us, so we'll be in good shape. So I know that Rob's running for them right now, so running a game on her channel. Yeah, I need a new Reaper ad. That's 2 years old.
You've been saying that for a year now.
I was gonna say I watched a YouTube video from you from the summer, and I think you said the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
I can't get ads from these guys, you know.
Yeah. You keep saying it every time, so in case they watch the channel and can hear it. So yeah.
I'll give you an example. So I'm going through, and we're doing 2 giveaways from the legendary Starship Horde digital controller games. I'm talking to Chuck, who's still under the weather, and I said, Chuck, you know, there's a 2-minute vid ad attached for Starship Horde, and Chuck's like, I remember something about that. I said, well, wouldn't you think that would be good if I had that and I could play that, like, you know, as an ad or something? And he's like, oh, yeah, that would be a good idea. I'm like, come on, man. So now this is what I'm playing now. I'm playing this old Kickstarter. You know, the Kickstarter's over now for Troll Lord, but they're a great sponsor. And Chuck just knows I'm busting his stones if he's on.
Yep.
He's probably lurking somewhere. Give him a shout out. Hey, Little Bones, what's going on? Yeah, using that turtle. I haven't said turtle yet, though. Can you use that turtle? By the way, yeah, it's that South Jersey Philly accent, everyone. So, by the way, Twitch does stuff and rarely tells people or streamers. I got like 4 more, like just out of the blue. I got 4 those. Yeah, I got more Twitch. I think I got 25 now. Emotes. It's crazy. So I got 4 more emotes. Just popped them up. Hey, Lando, what's going on? Getting the crew on here now.
I think they're rolling out animated emotes soon too. I think.
Yeah, that's only for partners though, and you know. Yeah, we won't even go into that yet. Application number 12 is in, so we'll see. Crazy stuff. So, thank you both for coming on. Really appreciate it. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna have a blast tonight. Sounds like new voices. That's the deal, Scott. We got some new voices on tonight. Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yes, we do.
I like this whole like voices behind the curtain kind of thing. Like, who is it?
Exactly. That's the thing. You know, just chatting a little bit behind the scenes here. Hey, Mike Saxon, good to see you, man. Tim Enoch, good to see you. Just getting some of the regular crew on here. Greyhawk community personnel. She got some. Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Creep's little baby voice.
Little baby voice.
Hey, Troy. Yeah. Let's see, Wayne. Getting a lot of rolling in here because, you know, we used to start at 7:30 and then 7's just been working so much better. So we're going to stick with the 7 o'clock time slot here. Hob Ramby Yerky. That's a new one.
Hobby turkey. That's DM's my Ghost of the Saltmarsh game.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, so I raided into that the other day. Yeah, that's great. Welcome. Good to see you. Thank you so very much for coming on. Fantastic.
Hobby's a great DM. We love to torture him during the
Excellent.
He's got the hottest dice in town, let me tell you.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, can't say that about my dice.
I was gonna
Yeah, I
say
said that very
those-
sarcastically.
Oh my
His
Yeah.
god,
dice
dice are always
absolutely-
so brutal.
Yeah.
Dice are a dumpster fire. Let's be honest, they're bad.
It's good that they sponsor you and you make a shamble of their.
Yeah, I know. I was like, what?
It's funny.
I got more. I got a bunch for the 18th too, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna want to give them to me. Yeah.
They're
No,
awesome looking dice.
they're great-
And
they're a great
awesome. It's just
sponsor.
that when you roll them, they roll
Oh. Brutal.
consistently. Yeah.
So brutal, Anna. You're absolutely correct there.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah.
Let me switch this up here. Get on. We'll be dead on at 7 o'clock. Alrighty. So let me shout out. So we're shouting out our 3D sponsors, Infinite Dimensions Games, who's always doing some wonderful stuff. They have some fantastic miniatures, and then Gamescape, who has got this contest coming up that we're going to have Build a Master Crafter, The Art of Mike Disney, and 3D sculptor Christine Van Patten doing the judging for that. So. Thanks, Troy. Thanks for that. Thanks for that gift sub right off the bat already. We're probably gonna hype train it up already soon. Fame and fortune. Thank you, Bones. Gave that to Alex? Oh, that was kind of you. Alex is, that took with us. That was nice. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Alright, we're almost ready. Some wonderful stuff from Stratagem. I gotta change that 41 to 42 in about a month. Everyone goes, well, what date did you start in 1980? And I'm like, how the hell do I remember what date I started when I was 12 years old? You know?
It's like when the authorities ask you for like some form and say, oh, which months did you do that? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, come on, guys, give me a break. So I was like, oh, it's over the Christmas holidays, the end of Christmas, New Year's in 1980. There you go.
Yeah, I remember that I started playing in the winter because it was snow outside when we got to the house and we got back out.
Exactly.
I remember that, but it could be where I grew up, it could be anything from October to April, so it could be any 6 months there, so yeah.
Exactly, that's it. Get it out there.
Yeah, so it might either be 79 or 80, I'm not sure which. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, thank you for getting us already to a level 1. That's crazy. It says 100%, but it's still ticking down. That's really nice. I don't know what that's all about. Alright, we're gonna go to an entry screen in a second here. I hit the wrong button yet either. It's we're usually I've hit 2 by now, so. Welcome! 9th DM's Roundtable discussion. 172nd Gabbin, so thank you everyone. Hey, careful. There's oh, is there? That would be awesome. Careful, Time Lords are coming in. Very, very cool. Stick around for a great discussion. And we gotta get Kevin Cantrip on the next one. That'd be a good idea.
What a great name.
Yeah. There's so many awesome names in chat.
Dave DM. We call DM 221532 the anti-hero point assassin. He once gave during a fundraiser me $400 to use a bunch of hero points on one specific player character last year. Damn right, yeah. It all went to St. Jude, yeah.
For a good cause.
It was all for a good cause. So we got some great. So we have one brand spanking new person to the stream, to this discussion, and we have one person who has played the game but has not been on a talk show. So I got to give apologies to Stella. Stella is under the weather, so she cannot make it. We may have someone jump in that first spot. What's up, Dale? Good to see you. Sure. Thank you for the reset. All right, coming live. Look at 7 o'clock on the nose. Deep breath. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jay Killer Gazumba. Thank you for coming and watching tonight as we got people still rolling in here. I'm joined, of course, by my partner in crime, the great Anna B. Meyer.
Hello.
Anna's going to take a little bit of a more active role because our topic tonight is going to be 5e for the most part. And she's going to be, as the 5e DM, she will participate that way as well. But let's welcome our two very special guests. First, returning from the Slav Squad gamers that we now have. All women with and Josh in that group.
And Josh
Playing Rosie Applebottom, the halfling thief, and a great DM herself, Darling Creepshow. Hey, Darling.
Hi, I'm sorry I didn't bring any cheese today.
Oh, that's okay. There'll be an opportunity in the future. I'm
We've
sure.
had enough food this weekend, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And also from the northeast corner of the great country of Canada, and a really wonderful show. And I usually watch the hour before I go live on Thursdays. I'm usually hanging out, lurking, watching the show. Paul, DM, one of the two DMs, correct? From Hops and Dragons?
Yes, it is. Yeah, my other co-host is Tilly. Unfortunately, work has pulled him away to the west coast of Canada, which is 4.5 hour time difference away. So in the meantime, while he's away, I have guests on. So that's what kind of spawned the whole random encounters episodes where I kind of do a little sit down similar to this and chat, but just with one person as opposed to the full roundtable. So super stoked to be on, though. Appreciate the invite.
Well, thank you for coming on, and I love your concept. Let's drink and play D&D and talk about D&D. I mean, is there anything better than that? It's a Thursday night, and if I did that during my game, like when I was 22, I could do it. At 50, whatever, if I do that, I'm done for the next day. So, it's pretty good concept.
We started out a lot having a lot more than we have been lately because we realized it wasn't sustainable. So very quickly we said, yeah, we got to chill out on this big time. So, but it's still a fun time.
Well, glad to have you both on. And like I said, Stella, unfortunately, Stella Luna was going to join us. She's never done a round table, and I've known her for years, but unfortunately, that's not going to happen tonight. But we may have someone else hop in. We'll see. But if not, we got plenty of discussion to go here for 2 hours. I know it'll go by so fast. So first question, and then please, audience, we'll take them about a half hour in. We'll start taking them from the audience here, because if you start throwing them in there, I'll never remember them all, even with me writing them down. Give me a little bit. Just give me background on how you got into D&D and what especially being a 5e DM. Like what were the circumstances? You want to start that up, darling?
Yeah. So I'm super new to DMing. I've been playing D&D for a little over 2 years now. I had played a little bit prior of earlier editions with friends locally. But we always had so many people that wanted to play that the group was overwhelming and it wouldn't last very long. I didn't find like a steady D&D group until I joined D&D games through my World of Warcraft guild.
Oh, that's
nice.
Hobby, who's in chat tonight, is one of my DMs from World of Warcraft.
Cool. And
through that, it inspired me to start up my own game with a local ladies group of all girls who had never played D&D before. So it's fun. So if I mess up, they have no idea, and it's awesome.
That's perfect.
But right now we're playing through the Horde of the Dragon Queen campaign. I'd eventually like to move into homebrew stuff, but I figure having like an original like first campaign book to kind of play through and guide me along my way to figure it out would be pretty perfect. It's worked out really well so far. We have a lot of fun.
Awesome. So you've been DMing for what, 9 months?
Yeah, around there.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, it's a nice shirt you have on.
Thanks. this really cool guy just sent it to me randomly in the mail one day. I don't know.
I appreciate that. It looks great on you, and really appreciate you coming and being amenable to chatting with us. And the community is the communities are growing, and that's a great thing. And we're trying to intertwine them all together so that we all can grow together and just enjoy playing the game we all love. So great background on that.
Thanks for having me. This is really exciting.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Paul, how about your story?
My origin story as a DM. So the one that got me into it was my co-host, Tilly,
Okay.
the other guy, the other half of Hops and Dragons. He had played in high school, and in junior high school, and we'd been best friends since then. So I think we just celebrated our 22nd year of friendship. So he's been playing for quite some time, and he was trying to get me into it in high school. And for whatever reason, I never ended up playing. Then Daryl, you mentioned World of Warcraft. I played World of Warcraft for 15 years and like completely got into that like fantasy thing, right? And then I had stopped talking to him as much. We hadn't seen each other a lot, and he wanted to try and DMing, or he wanted to have his hand at DMing. And then he said, "Hey, do you want to? Like, I'd kind of like the DM for somebody that I know, and maybe somebody who hasn't played a ton before or anything." So we did, and that was 4.5 years ago, 5 years ago. And when he left to have to go out to Vancouver, or just north of Vancouver, we was either stop playing because he was only home every 3 weeks, or it was somebody else kind of step up and take the reins. So I did that so that we can continue playing. And let me tell you, it's been a ride. So, but I've been DMing since April.
Okay.
So now I'm DMing two different campaigns.
So, but like 9 months as well, roughly. That's cool.
Yeah, and I did the same thing as well. I wanted to do something that was pre-made, so that I wouldn't have to go too deep into the homebrew right away, and then kind of got into it and immediately started changing things. So it's funny enough. And you mentioned the Horde of the Dragon Queen, which is the same campaign that I run, or I not that I run, but that I started playing in as my first campaign. So
that's awesome. That's super cool.
So, Anna,
Yeah.
we've heard a synopsis on yours. How far along back
it was kind of it was kind of funny. It was a little bit the same way. We had a DM that ran away, so I started playing in 79-80, and we had after a couple of kerfuffles in the beginning, we got one guy who decided to run games, and he was a fantastic DM. In the beginning, I hadn't not read Lord of the Rings or any fantasy whatsoever, so I couldn't understand why these awesome stories where they came from, and then I started to realize, oh, there's books about this, that you can actually get modules and there's things. So when there was a game store open in Gothenburg and the Greyhawk box set came out in 83, a couple of years after I started gaming, I picked it up and I realized this is my Pandora's box. This is where the stories came from. So I started reading it, and then our DM, he got a scholarship to the US, so he moved away and started at college here, I think it was. Yeah, it must have been college. And so what do now? So we just started taking turns to be DM, and I was the only one who been kind of prepared to do so. So I kind of had my adventure, and after that I was the perpetual DM for like 20 years almost or something. So I just had to invent the wheel and start running my own Greyhawk campaign, and I just kept doing it. And And I basically did it all the way until I moved to California 10 years ago. And all of a sudden I could start playing in games more than I DM'd. So I did that for some years and started running. And now I've been running for little over a year. I've been running a campaign set in the Shieldlands. I started out as with Pathfinder 2, but we shifted after a couple of months into 5e, so almost a year. Now I run two parties through the same area at the same time, so to speak, but they have parallel stories, so to speak, that actually happens in the same world at the same time. So the interaction between the campaigns. So villains have gone back and forth and stuff like that. So what one party does affect the other party, and that I'm running in 5e. Yep.
So I checked, and Anna is going to be in the Guinness Book of World Records.
Uh-oh.
Her last adventure, her characters were level 0 for what, 7 or 8 adventures.
Oh yeah, it was like 10 sessions before they gained the levels or something like that. Yeah, it was tough. It was tough on those poor bastards. I ran a tough regime. You need to. There were new players, and I needed to break them in and tell them in my campaign nothing comes in my games. So you better hunker down for survival or quit, so to speak. It's tough. So it's So I must have done something right, because I only got one player to quit in those 10 months or like 10 sessions. It was it was like 6 months or something like that before they even gained a level. I didn't give them XP. They got no treasure, nothing. It was tough. Yeah.
Wow.
Paul, I did via Whisper, and you may just want to put it in there too in Discord if you can, because I don't have Dave on Discord there. So
now that's
So it looks like DM Dave from Careful Cantrip may be hopping on too. So that's great. So there we go. Beautiful. Thanks Paul for working out. All right, giveaways tonight. Troller Games, is an awesome sponsor of ours, and we gave away, when we did our BattleTech special event on Friday night, we gave away 2 of these. We're giving away 2 more of these, and that is the legendary Starship Warden by Jim Ward. It's 650 plus pages, and it's like the original Metamorphosis Alpha reinvented by Troller Games. We're giving away 2 of those in digital, tonight. So we'll do that. Plus, for a lot of you that are new to we're a Greyhawk community, and I've been DMing my campaign for 41 years, soon to be 42, and so I think, darling, you have this one. The Greyhawk The Adventure Begins. Plus, in honor of our dearly departed friend, it's been about a year since Leonard Lakofka, the legend himself, passed. We'll add in his adventure secret at Bone Hill. So we'll do these 2 tonight. So we'll do 3 giveaways tonight. All right, sound good, everyone? All right, so I got DM Dave for Careful Cantrip coming in. Look at that. All right, I know the face now, so awesome. So Dave, welcome, and thanks for hopping in last second, man. I'm sorry I don't have any of your logos or anything or a shout out for you set up.
Listen, I'm just happy to be here. I woke up, put on some pants, saw the message from Paul, and thought,
awesome.
I'm there, man.
Very cool.
There. How's it going, Jay? How's your day going?
Things are going. Everything's going great. I really appreciate you doing that, and you got a great stream as well. And this is the good thing, keeping the community growing, and let's chat up some wonderful discussion here. How about you, as far as your origination story as a DM, and just introduce everyone who you are to channel wise, please. Okay. That would be great.
Well, I'm DM Dave. You might know me as my alter ego, Amarath. I stream on Twitch pretty regularly. No, I'm just kidding.
That's funny.
DM Dave from Careful Cantrip. You can find us over there. We do a whole bunch of cool stuff. We do a live stream. We do world building. We do art stuff. Anything you could possibly think of in the D&D stratosphere, we're on top of it. In terms of my backstory, it all started one dark and lonely night. A young boy all on his own. Funny enough, actually, I got into D&D through a little game called Minecraft. Not a lot of people have heard about it, so I don't worry if you've never heard about it before. I used to love going on servers and building things, and I got kind of tired of just building your regular stuff on there. So I started building quests for people to participate in. Then a friend of mine said, "Hey, idiot, have you ever heard of D&D before?" I said, "Oh, you mean that nerd game? I only play the cool kid Minecraft." So I'm sorry,
nice.
I don't swing that way. But did a little bit of research into it. I got to play my first game with them, and that minute I was hooked. But I found that the player the player chair wasn't really for me. I love telling stories. I love sharing those with my friends. So for me, really, it was the DM chair. So I built one, and then the rest is history.
Very cool. Excellent. Well, thank you for being that last second replacement tonight. I would like to have a nice full box here, and that's perfect. I really appreciate it.
That's the second time that I've done that to Dave too, so
Oh,
I
cool.
gotta feel a little bad.
And both times I was napping beforehand. So you know, it's just Paul's amazing for that. Thanks for reaching out, Paul. Appreciate it, buddy.
No problem.
So here's my first question, and this one's kind of I always ask this: who's your inspiration as a DM? Who do you look up to? Who do you like? Wow, I'd like to be that person. Or hey, I might pilfer a couple ideas from them. Who wants to take that one up first?
Oh, I know immediately.
Okay.
Right off the top of my head. Paul Dirtle. There's this guy. He's on this little channel called Hops and Dragons.
There's going to be it's good. There's going to be a lot of ass
Absolutely
kissing. That's perfect. No.
Why do you think? Now you know why I told him that he can come on.
Yeah, basically, he's paying me to do this. No, but I would say probably. I mean, everybody knows Matt Mercer. There's no big surprise there. That's the top of a lot of people's list. You know, phenomenal with his world, phenomenal with his storytelling, and really captures what I think we're all trying to capture, not only as DMs but on screen as well, is the fact that this is a game of camaraderie. It's that narrative storytelling, right?
Yep.
So to be able to capture that and find influences and role models within the community, and it doesn't necessarily have to be Matt Mercer, you know, it could be, there's plenty of other DMs out there that can still harness the same thing. So, you know, I look at guys like, you know, Keith Waters, I look at guys like Rob Hartley, amazing guys, even Dead Aussie Gamer, fantastic storytellers, unbelievable. And, you know, that to me is what a DM should really strive for, is to have that ability to tell a story with friends at a table and everybody to have some good laughs, a couple cries, and a lot of dice rolling.
That's it. It's exactly what it is. You know, my wife knows where I am. I'm not out at the bar. We're down in my basement. And that sounds a little disturbing. But hey, Anna's been in my basement, so and she made it back out alive. So there you go.
Awesome basement. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Great one. Thank you for that answer. Darling, how about you?
I think the person who really inspired me the most to DM is probably the first person I ever played a game under in D&D, which is one of my husband's closest friends, a guy named Paul. Y'all don't know Paul, it's fine. But just, he was very clever, everything.
DM Paul. Yes.
Surprise. No.
There's so many Paul DMs. What's happening? He was just really inventive, and everything was homebrew and on the fly playing with him, and that was really cool. Unfortunately, like I said before, those games kind of fell apart because there were too many people trying to be involved, and then it would, like, some people wouldn't show up, or this or that would happen, or like some people would be too cool one week suddenly to play D&D, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. But yeah, he was just, his storytelling is really impressive. And at one point, one of our games was getting twisted from D&D into Cyberpunk.
Okay.
Which was this really crazy, like, fusion of two worlds, and I don't know. The storytelling was really intense with some of those.
Okay. You know, and that's great to hear. There's a lot of people don't understand this crossover, but it goes back to the early days of TSR and Jim Ward, especially Metamorphosis Alpha, Boot Hill, Top Secret. I mean, you know, the D&D Merlin comes from Boot Hill and Greyhawk, so there was a lot, and everyone knows Expedition to Barrier Peaks. There's sci-fi crossovers all over the place in the original game. So, you know, a lot of people do Cthulhu Hawk too, which is a Cthulhu D&D
cool.
mix too.
That sounds really neat. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of great things there. So to see it go cyberpunk, I understand that completely.
It was like this. I'm pretty sure he watched
Will.
Inception maybe like the week before. But it was like a weird Inception idea of people waking up through dreams from D&D into the cyberpunk world, and it was really cool concept.
Excellent. Yeah, Cthulhu Hawk Bins, Jason Zavoda. You know, Jason, he was on Gabbin last week. You know, he does a Cthulhu Hawk style game. Yes. So this is the second time Will Wicked Studios has not been on a DM's Roundtable. He was on the first 7, but you know, so Will, we miss you, buddy. Hopefully you get back into, Will streaming Dragonlance on Fridays, and that is it. We need you back in the Greyhawk world too. So, Paul, how about your answer to that?
So I've got a multi-part answer.
Sure.
Which if anybody's watched Hops and Dragons, you'll know that that's kind of how we do things.
That's very cool.
But to be honest, I've gotta say that first and foremost, it would have to be the person who got me into D&D, which was Tilly, which is my co-host. And he taught me through playing how to play and how to make sure that everybody was welcome at the table, and to make sure that the players had they were having fun, because if somebody's not having fun, then why are we here? All these concepts and all these like philosophies about D&D. And then once I started to get a little bit more interested as far as the inspirations and everything, it was I watched, I think, in like maybe 2 weeks, every Running the Game series or video that Matt Colville put out. So like mechanically and like, I guess again, more like philosophically, I learned how to do it from that as well. And then once we started to get into Hops and Dragons a little bit more, and started to stream, to be completely honest, I don't watch a lot of the big names anymore. I watch the people in our community. I watch you, for example. I watch Dave, DM Shanks from Top Down Tabletop as well. Kind of whoever's on that night, I'll watch and kind of take notes and say, okay, that's really cool. I can actually reach out to them and talk to them about how they did that. And cool. I learn more from that and take some inspiration from that more than I do from somebody that I can't talk to, like Mercer or Colville or something like that.
And trust me, I've reached out to I've reached out to the upper echelon to get some on the show, and we've, having a Greenwood on the show once every 2 months is not bad, right? But there's a difference between the old school.
Much better.
What's that?
Can't be much better.
Yeah. But there's a difference between having those and having the actual streamers on. There's a big difference,
Yeah.
So, but we have a lot of fun here, and that's. So one more time, Dave, reintroduce yourself one more time real quick for anyone who's hopping on because you weren't on the schedule there. DM Dave from Careful Cantrip.
Oh, sure. Yeah. DM Dave, Careful Cantrip. You can find us over there. I will type something in chat right now. Hello. That's where you can find us. We do a whole bunch of really fun stuff in terms of D&D, from running games to artwork to game shows. We recently launched the Funge and Feud, which was an absolute hysteric. If you like Family Feud, Paul was on it. It was a really good time. We do it, but D&D style oriented.
Awesome.
So lots of fun.
Very cool. Thank you. Anna, I know.
Well, I had the good thing with the first DM that kind of ran it the first like 2 years for me. He was a fantastic world builder, more than actually running the games. But he created the seed of world building for me. He kind of presented an awesome world with great characters, names, and places and stuff. That was good. So that kind of set the bar for me, and something that I needed to kind of get over. And then came the kind of the lonely years for me, because we barely knew anyone else who played the game, because we were sitting in a small town in kind of semi-rural Sweden, and there was not that many other games. And this is like before the internet stuff, so you couldn't really go on anywhere and see anyone else doing it. There were the occasional small convention and stuff, but we realized that we had played longer than they had, and we had things to learn, but it was hard. But thankfully, I had great players that were very constructive in their criticism. They constantly criticized me, but that made me better. They did it in a way that they wanted me to run more games, and they were hard on me and at me in running games, but it was from a position of love, so to speak. So that kind of hardened me and made me better. So I think that the next big inspiration was my players that demanded and gave as players. So that was really fantastic. I must thank all the ones that played with me for the better part of 20 years. And then then things changed. I moved to California, and the internet became powerful enough to have video, and all of a sudden D&D became a spectator sport, something I never ever thought would happen ever, so to speak, entertainment. And then I got a chance to go to big conventions and play games with famous people, not so famous people, and I found through organized play a couple of DMs, and that became good friends of mine. They were fantastic, that I started to learn more kind of technical skill, how to handle initiative and stuff like that, game mechanics wise, and so on and so forth. And especially to how to start DM in English, meaning that's not my native language. And that was a new experience, even if I read the books and stuff in English before. And now you have the chance to pick and choose. You can watch 10 streamers and you can kind of pick, oh, I like that idea and I like that approach. And then you can kind of pick and kind of merge that into your own play style thing. And I really try to. So I think that I've advanced significantly the last 10 years. And now I'm learning to run games online. And that's a whole new ball game and a whole new concept, and requires new tool, a new approach, technical know-how, and how to get across through a webcam when you do things and not staring at some other screen for too long and stuff like that. So yeah, so it's that's a new thing for me. I'm trying to not master is too much of a world. Kind of barely scrape by, so to speak, to come up to my previous standard using online tools rather than at the table. That was a very long.
Troy, thank you, man. That's really kind of you. So, anyone who's new to the stream, Anna and I met via chance. It was bound to happen, but almost 3 years ago.
It was thanks to one of your players, Marco, and co-DM Marco.
From at Gen Con. And note that Anna, and she'll do this in her Patreon too. She customizes her map for her high-level patrons, and I get the special treatment here. And as you can see, the background of my areas in the background here for the small area of Greyhawk that Free City of Altamira is. But note that Anna's doing a lot of other projects. I'm gonna give you an example for anyone new. So you see all my heraldry shields that Anna helped me figure out how to make this. But here, this is what we're doing now. Next generation, real-looking shields. So so there you go. There's an Order of Yule Shield So we're working on real looking heraldry now, and Anna's leaps and bounds beyond the whole realm of technical going on with, she's gold standard for map making. The Greyhawk map is wonderful. Yeah, well, thank you, Bones. So you'll see more of them coming. And Troy, that was really kind of you for doing those gift subs. I really appreciate it. All right, 5e discussion tonight. So half of you are going to say, Jay's sold out. He's not a 5e DM. and half of you are going to say, Jay, you're yay. So there you go. Everyone knows I'm a one.
Jay, I think everybody can agree that whether it's first, whether it's fifth, as long as it's not fourth, then you're absolutely fine. Everything's fine.
Yes. We have a lot of Castles and Crusades. Anna was playing Pathfinder and Pathfinder 2 before this. We got a whole bunch.
3rd edition Pathfinder was my longest running game system, so to speak. So yeah.
So let's keep the topic on 5e for a little bit here. And here's my first question to all of you. Give me what you love the most about 5e D&D. It could be one little rule, it could be a little nuance. I want to hear this. Who wants to take that up first?
I can say fairly quickly that what I like in 5e is the balanced math, meaning the numbers don't go scale up through the roof, and things kind of keep neat and tidy, so to speak. There's still room to expand, but it doesn't go crazy like 3rd edition and some of the early editions, meaning something that was 1st level can't even damage something that is 10th level. There's the math is the inflation, the numbers inflate way too much in earlier editions. That was something they brought in the math into reasonable realms. So you can kind of, the limits where you can experiment within, and things, characters have a little bit of a chance to hit things and so on. So that the balance, I think they got that right in 5e.
Cool.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. I think for me, the number one advantage of 5e, or the blessing that 5e has given us, in one word, is freedom. The big difference is that, compared to older editions, we'll take 3, for example. You could have one spell that's 2 pages long. It has to be this, do this. It was very crunchy. It was very heavy. where in 5e it could just be a couple of sentences, and then they tack on the best wording that they've ever put in D&D at the DM's discretion. And I don't mean that for a DM to be overburdening or, trying to inflict problems too much on the players through the mechanics, but it allows the players to become the heroes that they want to be. Do you want to try and jump off the cliff onto a wild horse stampede that's flying by and ride it into combat against the advancing army? Well, go ahead and roll. You can certainly try. We've all heard that before. And it's just such a crucial part to the enjoyment of the game overall. It really gives you the freedom to be anything you want to be, which is exactly what D&D is all about.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would like to expand upon that. One thing that I really appreciate about 5e is the sheer amount of variety and options when it comes to character creation.
Yes.
I didn't realize what 2E entailed when I did the game with Jay a couple weeks ago, and I really, really wanted to be a goblin thief because I feel like in my heart I am a goblin, and I had to kind of like settle for halfling, which I love Rosie. She's super fun, and she's nuts. But I love that variety and options out there when it comes to character creations. You can literally be whatever the hell you can imagine and want to be.
Yeah.
I'm
Super
sorry
cool.
for being limiting, but I got my own fuddy-duddy players here. So
it's okay. It forced me out of my comfort zone, and that's something I like as a writer. I like a challenge, and I like to be forced out of my comfort zone.
it was
from time to
great.
time.
Great
So
character. Great.
playing a halfling,
Fantastic.
I had to read a lot about halflings, and that was cool too. So
Very, very nice. Excellent. I'm glad to see that you were willing to make that change too. It's good. And it's like I said, every DM's got a different style, which is really neat about the game. No two DMs are alike, and that's saying something with the thousands of people now streaming on Twitch too. So, Paul, how about your answer to this?
To be honest, I'm gonna go with not necessarily something mechanically, but I think that the ease of entry with 5th edition for me, I think if I had tried to play 4th edition or maybe even 3.5 or something like that I'd been invited to in the past, I think that I probably wouldn't have fell in love with it as quickly and as easily. And I've got I have a table of full beginners, or not full beginners, sorry, there's a couple experienced players there, but there's some people that have never played RPG games, never done anything in the fantasy world, and for them to be able to pick up 5th edition and just start, and with maybe an hour of talking beforehand, and that's an hour of me just doing like, this is what my world is like, this is whatever, you can make a character in this world, like that's I think that's pretty cool that they can easily pick that up and jump into it pretty quickly. But yeah, I think that'd be my answer. Ease of entry.
Excellent.
And I haven't played some of the older editions, so you guys can tell me if I'm completely wrong on that as well. So,
well,
but just from the stories that I've heard, that's
my addendum is, what have you played besides 5e? And it could be played in or DM'd.
I've played. I've played 5th edition. And I've DM'd 5th edition.
Okay.
Wide
so
variety,
just
wide
I'll
variety.
we'll have to remedy that in one of my all-star games. We'll have to remedy that. Yeah.
That'd be a lot of fun.
We can remedy that. Yeah. Anna, go ahead. I know what you were going to say on edition-wise. What have you played?
Well, I started playing basic D&D in 79-80, so I played every edition of D&D since, and Pathfinder extensively. First and a little bit of 2nd edition, and I must say 5th edition to me is very much the best of D&D edition. They kind of brought out they took away a lot of the idiosyncrasies from earlier editions, made a sweet, streamlined, perfect entry drug into D&D, so to speak, with 5th edition.
Cool. Dave?
So I've played obviously 5th edition I've played and I've run. I have played a couple games in 3.5, I liked it, but way too many options for me. And it's more so just because I came at the tail end of it. So it was just, there was a lot of researching to do, even just to figure out what my character was going to be. Aside from that, I've run a Call of Cthulhu game. I tried 4th edition one time when I was really drunk.
What?
You know, it was that one night stand that everybody doesn't want to talk about, right? It was just like, you know, it's just had
That's
too much
awesome.
that night. Through the Breach, which I think is everyone should get a chance to play. Phenomenal storytelling gameplay, and there's such loose rules in it that it really is focused more so on the character rather than, okay, well, what class are you? What race are you? It's what do you want to accomplish in your life? Which is a really, really interesting. And plus, you don't use dice; you use cards, which is a really cool concept as well. So those are probably like the top things. D&D, Call of Cthulhu, and Through the Breach would be my top 3.
Excellent.
Can I change my answer? I just realized.
Yeah, sure.
So
That being
I
no-
played.
no test.
I played in a one shot of Brindlewood Bay there a few months ago. I don't know if you guys know what that game is or not.
I don't even know. I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've all seen Murder She Wrote
Sure.
on TV. Imagine that, but TTRPG, and then add in Cthulhu.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's you're playing as a bunch of widowers essentially that have just retired to Brindlewood Bay, and you're investigating crimes, whether they be murders or something. Just like the TV dramas of the 80s. And but there's like, that's what the story is about. And then if you roll like a certain if you roll high enough, you get like void clues, I think it's called. So you get clues about the Cthulhu or something Lovecraftian that's around. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's Golden Girls, it's Murder She Wrote, it's all that. It was a ton of fun.
See, okay, here's the thing though. This has been talked about in our communities for quite some time. Paul has gone on and on about this game and how amazing his accent was.
Oh no.
But no one's ever heard the accent before.
You're gonna do this now, aren't
Do
you?
we
Yeah,
get an
Angela Lansbury
exclusive?
it for us.
Yeah.
Yep.
No,
Stage is yours, my friend.
My character was she was a southern debutante named Georgina Delacroix from down south where the trees grow so tall. And she loved baking, and she could make the sweetest pecan pie you ever did taste. That was Georgina. So
That's awesome.
Thank you for being a friend.
thanks for that, Dave.
And darling, what about you? I know you've played in a 1E, 2E game recently.
I have, yeah, with you, sir. And I've mostly played 5e.
Okay.
And I DM 5e.
Okay.
And it's a little cyberpunk is probably the only other thing I've ever really played. I love cyberpunk, kind of mildly obsessed with it. I haven't got to delve deep enough into it, but one day.
Yeah, we played some Traveler back in the day, quite a
Yes.
bit in early days.
I don't think I know what that one is.
Yeah, it was actually came out roughly the same time D&D came
Yeah,
out,
it did.
late
Okay.
70s, and it's sci-fi, hardcore sci-fi. So to speak.
Okay.
And- but I it was not as fun. And I played some Fate. I played some other here and there at conventions and stuff. So
So darling, did you ever see Firefly?
Oh yes.
Okay, here comes the fight.
Oh yes.
Josh
Nathan
Whedon,
Fillion?
Josh Whedon's never come up with an original idea on his own. Firefly is Traveler.
Okay.
He just took the
Alright.
Traveler.
Yep.
It's like, you know what? These
Yep.
guys, out in the fringes,
Yep.
and they lost.
and you could
the
die in character
war.
creation. That
Yeah,
was the
it's
big
Traveler.
thing in Traveler. So
Yeah.
if you
Okay.
kept you could try and become better and better character and level up before you start playing, but you could also die. So you have to kind of
Yes.
redo your characters. That
There's
was
a lot of tables like that. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
so we're
yeah,
going through the MechWarrior generation, and there was one.
Yep.
I swear to God, it said this. I don't remember what the role was, but it said, "Camping trip goes horribly awry. Consult limb loss subtable."
Uh-oh.
I'm like,
Yeah.
"What?" That's insane. That's crazy for character generation. But yeah, so for me, I played BattleTech once in the Blue Moon. You saw Friday night. We used to play Aftermath, which is really old game, but it's mostly D&D for me here. Hey, Sky, good to see you. Sky McSparkle, another great streamer. All right, so here's another question. And Anna, you got a question lined up after this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
mhm.
What do you dislike about 5e the most?
Okay, I can kind of
Go.
answer that right.
Okay.
There is no exploration pillar. There is not much rules for exploration, hex scrolling, outdoor adventuring, and stuff. That kind of missing. And there's also no monster creation rules and
Okay.
rules to create artifacts and stuff. Those are missing from the books.
Okay.
That's my caveats, I think.
All right.
Yeah, but at the same time, don't you? I think they left the exploration open a little bit for the interpretation of the DM.
Yeah.
I think that's, granted, combat will always be heavy in terms of mechanics. Absolutely agree with you there. But I would also agree that while social and exploration fall short, and I think that's kind of one of the caveats of 5e is the whole theater of the mind thing.
Yeah.
That's an essential part of the overall game nowadays. So while I agree that it is very, very light, I do think they did it a little bit for a reason. And to a certain extent, it gives you that kind of variety to really create your own game a little bit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and depending on your game style and stuff, something that is missing might be an asset for someone else because the rules doesn't get away and vice versa. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I would agree with you there.
Cool.
In terms of what I like least about 5e, I would say that the lack of rules is a cursing and a blessing. I won't say lack of rules. It's just the lack of the extended rules to a certain extent. There is a fair amount of, as much as it's good at that, it's at the DM's discretion. I feel like they give a little bit too much. And that's specifically things like, Tasha's rules. Tasha's rules put a very larger burden, and whether you want to call it a burden or not, but larger responsibility to the DM to make things up on the go. I'll give a perfect example in terms of the Tasha stuff is the fact that you can switch your subclass overnight. That's a little hard to follow because it's kind of like, okay, based on the narrative, someone falls asleep under a tree. A cleric of the Tempest domain falls asleep under a tree, has a weird dream, and now all of a sudden they're a grave cleric. That's hard to swing and hard to play into the narrative where it makes sense. And if 5e is trying to drive to more of a narrative approach, which I think is what they're trying to do, then that kind of breaks that immersion, that breaks that level of disbelief that is inherent, you have to inherently have within the game. And it's definitely something that I do have concerns around with the whole release of what they're tentatively calling the 5.5, which is coming out next year. And I know that's not the actual name, but that's kind of what it feels like in terms of what they're doing so far. So I just don't want it to get to the point where it's like, okay, we're not going to give you any rules at all. It's just basically up to the DM's discretion, and it's kind of that massive disclaimer over top of all of it.
I have to stop the conversation right here. Now, that's just great point. But I have to ask this, and I'm not trying to sound like an ass. Does anyone know who Tasha is and where Tasha comes from?
Tasha is a fictional character.
Yeah,
that comes from the world of D&D.
Yes.
They wrote a whole book about it. I mean, God, who doesn't know, Jay? Who doesn't know about
exactly?
Tasha? I mean, come on, right?
Thanks.
I know that it was
Tasha.
it was somebody's daughter, was it not? That worked at.
All right, so here we go.
I mean, who they're named after, not the character in D&D.
This is where us Greyhawkers have a problem with WotC, and this is a great topic to go off on discussion. Tasha is Igwolf. Igwolf is Tasha. Tasha has been around forever. Tasha's uncontrollable hideous laughter spell going back to first edition. Igwolf is Eoz's mother, right? Grazitz and Igwolf birthed Ayuz the Evil from Greyhawk, and it is wiped clean in the WotC world. And that is because obviously none of you and it's not your fault, but we're saying Greyhawk feels left out of the. And I'm on my soapbox here.
Well, you played too long.
Yes. So this is the WotC
yeah.
sterilization is something we all have a bug of our ups with,
It's
and you can
ups
understand
and downs
that.
with it. So
But it's a shame, and we see that as a shame. And I have Ed Greenwood back on the show next Sunday, and Ed kind of feels the same way a little bit about his FR because it's gone a little bit more sterilized, right? It's a general campaign setting books, and that's okay. That's their plan is they don't want to put out too many campaign books or whatever. And Ed's been doing a lot of stuff on DM's Guild now. Okay, but just when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, zing. We would love to see them open up a little bit more to the older communities. They're supposed to bring out some stuff for who knows what they are. Dragonlance, there's Eberron, there's Greyhawk, there's Mystara, there's all these old settings, and some of the there's Gamescape, there's Planescape, not Gamescape. Listen to me.
Well,
oh my gosh,
it's in there too.
Yes,
Jay, I'm going to challenge you here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
please.
In terms of campaign settings, I mean, we have FR, we have Eberron, right? Yep. We've even got Barovia, which all have very distinct flavors to them.
Yep.
And again, it's just for my lack of knowledge of the Spelljammer as well. Fantastic setting.
Yep.
And I'm hoping they're leaning towards that with the whole monsters of the multiverse very soon. But so how do you distinguish Greyhawk? Like what is the sale there?
Okay.
What makes it different from FR?
We will get to that after let's finish up the question, then I will answer that and analyze. No, this is great. This is what happens on a round table. So Darling and Paul, what don't you dislike about 5e? Then we'll go right back to that. That is a great.
What do I dislike about 5e?
I
think maybe there's a little bit of overpowering in some of the classes. My dwarf cleric is she can be a real son of a bitch sometimes. I can cast way too many spells in one round, and I can just decimate stuff. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like some classes are maybe a little bit overpowered in 5e.
100%. Yeah.
And
if
a little bit more balance would be nice.
Yeah. If I could add to just one thing to my answer, it's impossible to die in 5e.
Yeah. It really doesn't help my dwarf's personality at all. She's an absolute psychopath at this point. She is convinced she's indestructible.
I want to see that game.
You can. Yeah. I've had almost TPK every session for like many sessions in 5e. So I've almost wiped out the party multiple times. You don't give them too much. That's the thing.
Great point. So
you just keep them level 1 for like 10 years.
Yep. They have to earn their level.
Or level 11, as Anna can attest to.
No, I'm just kidding, but it is a tough that way because the characters quickly get powerful and tough to kill. Yeah.
Well, you get Revivify at like level 4 if you're a cleric, and then it's kind of like, okay, as long as you have a diamond, you never have to worry about it. Spare the dying. Like, it's a cantrip. Are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. And you don't have to be careful with that one. Shout out.
Well done.
But yeah.
This is exactly why I wanted to have a 5e discussion out there and get some 5e main DMs. And there's no right or wrong way to play the game, and that's a great thing. There is absolutely not, and you're free to make any changes that you want to the systems, which is another wonderful thing. And I've done that for 40 years. I mean, my 1e 2e is not 1e 2e, right, Anna? It's not.
Yeah. It's kind of it's your 1.2 point some J version. Kind of
which is very cool to hear. So Paul, your answer to this one?
Yes, for me, it's got to be the CR system. It's got to be just creating monsters and trying to balance encounters. For me, on top of the other things, obviously, that's already been brought up. But like, as somebody who's learning how to build encounters, like getting into it, it's you can compare. And you guys can probably come up with better examples than I can, but you can compare a monster that has a CR of 2 that if they use the spell the right way, or if they roll well on their attacks or something like that, then now you've got a death spiral, and that CR2, that medium encounter is now turned into a deadly encounter very quickly. So I find that CR does nothing for me in building an encounter. Yeah. For me, it's I'll use it as a rough guide, and then kind of roll with it as the encounter goes. And if it gets out of hand, well, then now that character or that monster doesn't have as many abilities, kind of thing. Then kind of tame it down a little bit, or scale it up or whatever. So for me, it's more, I need to take that into my own hands, I feel, rather than rely on the CR mechanics and framework for building monsters. And I don't know if you guys do the same thing or not, or if it's just like run as written entirely. So
It's a gut feel for me.
Yeah.
CR was, I laughed. I was like, CR? Who needs that? I know what the monsters do. I know how to tweak them and stuff, but that's it's set for new players. There's so many new people and DMs and players into the industry. I can understand why there's a CR system.
Yeah.
I really can understand.
Yeah, but
that.
the CR doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's, what do they say? It's intended for a party of 4. I run a party of 7. CR means nothing to me. My party at level 2 could probably defeat a blue dragon if they tried hard enough. It's insane.
Well, that sounds like a major drawback to 5e. It does. I mean,
it does. No. So, and to give you an example too, is like anybody who's watched me talk about this on Hops and Dragons knows that I killed my best friend's character in the second session, at level 1, second session, and it was insta kill. It was no death saves, no nothing. And the monster, I just looked it up, is a CR1. It was a boss, in the second session, just in a cave. It was a frozen ice toad. Right? but because they had poison damage and they had piercing damage and he crit. So like that was it. It did, I think Tilly's character only had 10 health, and it did more than double that in the negative. So yeah, it was. You said it's hard to kill players, but
Tilly's instant death was incredible. Lux Inferior says Tilly's instant death was incredible. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine
he was happy about it.
I imagine we have what's called DM's Crushing Fist, and I imagine you can DM's Crushing Fist in any situation if you really up for it on doing that to your players.
Yeah. So my issue was that I rolled the crit and I got excited because it was the second session. And then they were like, you just crit. You can't hide that anymore. And I was like, shit, okay. So here we are. Yeah.
I have one. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Anna. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I have one more caveat that coming from older editions and also from Pathfinder is the presentation of the rules and how they're packaged, and meaning you have a lot of books, meaning you haven't had that much feature creep in when it comes to the official releases from Wizards of the Coast, but still you have to get every book, and they're not available in PDFs, and you can't get compilations of rules, meaning I want to have all the spells in one place. I would like to have all the feats in one place. I want to have all the rules that governs planner and stuff when you gate something in or you transit to another plane. Now I have to kind of sift through every book and stuff. It's but I can totally get it from a sales perspective, meaning you want both players and DMs and everybody involved in the game to have to buy every product. But they kind of put that to the ultimate limit, so to speak. And coming from 3rd edition and stuff where you had like specialty books. This is a book about planar travel, and this is a book about artifacts, and this is a book about sea-going adventures, and etc. So you know that okay, they're out in the sea. I grab this book, and the rule is in there, so to speak. And nowadays, I would love to have PDFs, and I would love to get legal PDFs that I can read on my tablet. I can read on my own leisure, so to speak. I can copy and put compilations of rules together in whatever tool I want. Those are things that are hard to do. They really make it hard to do that with 5e.
That's a huge issue with Wizards of the Coast. The fact that they have not adapted to the virtual landscape properly yet.
Yep.
That drives every new 5e DM player, whatever the case, up the wall. I mean, D&D Beyond is kind of the pivotal, like that's what you play 5e on. That's how you add your characters in there. The fact that I don't have a little tab on each one of the books that I buy, the actual paper copy that I can just plug into D&D Beyond. And granted, I recognize they're 2 different companies, but I mean, come on, guys. That's you're double dipping a little too much at that point.
Yep, it's an expensive system to get into if you want to have all the perks and that I enjoyed using other companies' products gaming. That way, if I want to game the same way in 5e, it's very expensive comparatively.
Yeah, my 5e group that I DM, I have them all running like traditional pencil and paper, and like we have our like little game board, and we actually go out into the woods and play. And
Wow.
let me tell you about carting all that shit out to the middle of the woods, because I have like my backpacks and I'm like hiking, and I have like 20 books in the damn backpack. It's a lot. It's a lot to bring out and have ready at my fingertips, because I don't have the internet out there, so I have all these damn books. And but it's fun. It makes it a lot more immersive for sure.
That's fucking awesome, by the way. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
It's super rad. We have some property out here in the mountains, so we hike out there and set up a campfire and pull out the drinks, and it's super fun.
I could never put my 8-foot by 8-foot table out in the woods somewhere. I mean, if you imagine that. I would be like, what the hell are you doing? You're gonna dislocate your shoulder.
Jay needs a 3-day trip for every time he goes out to play D&D.
Yeah, exactly.
Cons are worse. The cons are the worst thing, because I'm a visual DM, right? You know, I play miniatures, terrain. What do I do at cons? So I have a kit. I take. So it's tough. Cons are tough. Prometheus is on there as well. Paul, he's another Canadian brother of yours, and he has a stream too, as well. A Greyhawk member of the community. All right,
Nice.
I got to answer this one. I'm not going to soapbox this. Give me 2 minutes. Greyhawk.
Sell me.
Greyhawk.
2-minute elevator pitch. Let's go. What's Greyhawk got for us?
Greyhawk. Well, first off, Greyhawk is Gary Gygax's original campaign setting. Yep. Greyhawk has some of the most unbelievable lore that you probably know that you don't know is Greyhawk, and I just gave one because it's been sanitized over the year. Mordenkainen, Tensor, Melf, Greyhawk, all of it's Greyhawk, right? Legends of the game. Jim Ward, Len LaKafka, who's on my show 40 sometimes before he passed last year. Secret of Bone Hill, great, unbelievable. The Drow, I'm sorry, Ed Greenwood. The right way to play Drow. Vault of the Drow, D3. The Drow come from Greyhawk. Wonderful monsters, all core Greyhawk. Spells, abilities, classes, history on knighthoods, death knights, all Greyhawk. All that stuff. Joe Manganiello's great shirts. He's actually got something that Gary Julian Pluffett Smedger wrote. Oh, those shirts he sells, it's all Greyhawk. But once again, you wouldn't know it unless I was, or other people in the community were nudging. And that's why we're here. And we have a large community growing. We've had a con last 2 years. It gets bigger every year. Things are going well for us. I have a meeting with Ray Winninger shortly. So we'll see where that goes. I'm going to stick that out there with everyone. He and I are going to be talking. I'm trying to get him on the show, but I don't know if that's going to happen. So we're trying. We're trying to get our visibility back up, because we feel like we've been ignored a little bit, right, Anna? You want to say something to that?
Well,
I'm done with
I was going
soapbox.
to say I'm going to agree with you and disagree to some degree. It's and simply because I agree with almost everything you said. When all the iconic monsters, races, and spells and all that comes from Greyhawk, because Greyhawk and D&D kind of co-evolved in the beginning. So that's why there's so many roots. But on the other hand, the reason I play personally in Greyhawk is simply laziness. I learned that world first, and now it become my home, so to speak, and I can realize that I could play in Forgotten Realms. I could have equally become in love with that setting, so to speak.
That's true.
So, and I think that's also part both of the strength and the weakness of Greyhawk, that it doesn't have any particular flavor. That's both an asset and a problem. Meaning, a lot of the other settings, they come with a flavor. You can say, oh, it's Dark Sun, or it's some of the other ones. But Forgotten Realms and Greyhawk, they have that kind of, it can span anything, so to speak. You can have from desert to polar things to to jungles and steamy jungles and nights and Underdark and all sorts of stuff. So it's kind of a full service setting in that way. And therefore I think they both compete and complement. So I think Greyhawk, meaning if you're already playing in Forgotten Realms, then you don't really need to switch to Greyhawk. You can have all the cool stuff you need. But on the other hand, if you want a cool setting that you can tweak into make your own personal version of it with great backstories, you can dive into a rich community, then Greyhawk, damn, is really good. But it's also a bunch of old grognards who know too much about stuff that will tell you do things. So
Well, and Stella
try
was,
to be as good as we can.
Stella was supposed to be on tonight, and she's unfortunately ill. And
So-
Stella's
so
a
there's-
5e Greyhawk streamer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So
you know,
there's
yeah.
pluses and minuses with Greyhawk that way. And I think that
That is
both
true.
it's Greyhawk both is an asset and a hindrance, that it is a kind of a standard run of the mill fantasy setting with very deep roots.
So that's an interesting question though. So why do you guys, being experts in Greyhawk, which mad respect to both of you for, why do you think that they went with Fantasy Realms as opposed to Greyhawk? Why did they lead with FR?
I think it was that simple, that it was Gary's creation. They wanted something new and fresh that didn't have the Gary's stamp all over it, so to speak. When he was ousted from the company, they needed something that was not written and designed by Gary, and they can do whatever they want with. So to speak.
Interesting.
I
Very
think that
interesting.
was probably a big
And you,
reason for it.
if you, I'm not pushing. I'm going to push it. Next week's show, I got Ed Greenwood back on with Eric Mengi. Ed
Yeah.
is an unbelievable. He's a what's the word? He is just. It's crazy the lore he just like that. So Ed is
Yeah.
like still to this day pouring out great Forgotten Realms content. And he's even given us new Greyhawk lore content from when he talked to Gary Gygax when he comes on the show. So they have Ed as a font of knowledge. I mean,
Yeah.
Ed is a legend. I mean, Ed is just unbelievable with the stuff that he cranks out, and that's probably one of the reasons why Ed's so engaged now. So plus there's some bad. There was always issues going. It was Gary's company. There's a lot of, and we don't need to
Yeah.
get in the weeds on
And,
that.
and,
But
yeah, and also Greyhawk had been around for a bit. That might be
Period,
people
you're
saying,
right.
"Oh, we need something
Legend.
new, fresh, and cool that could be designed for D&D that have evolved, so to speak, for a future edition, second edition, and so
Yeah.
on." So
and he does look
so
like a wizard. Antiquist. He is Elminster. Let's just be blunt
Yeah.
about it. Ed is
Yeah.
Elminster. So. All right. So enough of that soapbox. So Anna, give our esteemed guests a question.
yeah, I was thinking, since we're DMs, but players also have a kind of a deep role in playing the game. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fun if then we would just sit and do our world building that some of us love to do.
We'd
but-
all be authors.
exactly. So, yeah, we
That's
need,
no,
but-
seriously, that's really at the
Yeah.
end of the
Yeah.
day, without them, that's all we
Very
are.
cool.
Yep. So I was
Yeah.
thinking, how do you involve your players in story creation, or do you? And in that way,
question.
in what ways? So to
Great
speak?
question. Great question.
Who wants to take that up first?
Okay. So in terms of
Dave's first.
Sorry, I promise this isn't my show. I swear to God.
Dave,
I
this
won't.
is fun. It's fun. Hey,
Yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you.
It's
Yeah,
great
go ahead.
You're
questions.
very
and-
welcome.
and
You're
great
very
input.
welcome. So
Yeah.
in terms of and this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier in terms of the whole point of this game, there's no winning or losing. It is a group effort,
Good point.
100% collaborative, that it is the story of the players without question. The DM should have very little involved with the overall story. Yes, it's their world. Yes, it's their villains. But like and it's funny because I was just talking about this morning on our world building show, is the fact that you look at any of the major epics out there, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, two perfect examples. It starts with the villain. Every single epic starts with the villain, and they're fleshed out and they're interesting and they're doing all of these kind of things. It's their plan, but it's not their story. It's never been their story. It was the story of Luke. It was the story of Frodo. You know, there's a huge difference. And so for me, it's a matter of taking in the players' backstories and saying, okay, what have you given me to work with so that I can build it into my world, so I can make it matter for you. So that's step one. And that really only gets us to a certain level. And that level is going to be completely dependent on how long you're running your campaign for. But it's the crux. It's that apex moment when the villain's plan and the hero's adventure correlate. It's when they finally come together, where it's like they're in direct opposition of each other now. And now it's that epic story, right? So for me, it's a matter of taking both the backstory as well as the whole idea of these are the heroes who are going to save the realm. They need to be tested. They need to be, trialed against certain things. It's the same. It's the same as every story that's ever been written about fantasy or anything along those. It's the hero's journey. That's what the players want. That's what the viewers want. If you're a Twitch streamer, they don't care about how I could go on a lore dump for 3 hours and my chat and my players would fall asleep for the most part, even if it was amazing and enthralling, but it doesn't involve them at that point in time.
Yes.
So, that's why I will hang my hat on the fact that how do I incorporate my players? Thoroughly, 100%, because it has nothing to do with me other than being the narrator for their story.
Okay. Great answer.
And now you know why I said earlier that he was one of my inspirations for learning how to play D&D.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Yep.
So, Paul, darling, you want to take that one up? How do you involve? I mean, it's a little deep question.
I mean, I feel I can agree with David a lot on what he said. And it's really, I mean, it's not about that the DM has like the skeletal structure of what could possibly happen, but you have bad guys and you have all of your elements there, but really it's the players who guide where you're going and what you're doing, because you could have a whole night set up of like, oh, I'm going to lead them into this, into this, into this. And all it takes is one person to be like, well, I'm going the other way. Screw you. And you have to come up with something on the fly and play from there. So, I mean, really, yeah, just kind of letting like, I give in my game, I give kind of like, I have my NPCs and my little guide stones pushing you down the river. But if you want to hop off the boat at any point in time and take the back road, I guess that's what we're going to do, because this is really your story.
Yep.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Paul, you got an answer to that?
Yeah.
Good.
And
It's a great
just,
answer
just
too, darling.
In addition to what you just said too, is given the fact that I don't have a ton of time to be able to do the homebrew and prep and everything that I want to, I've been finding some different adventures, whether they're free or for a few dollars on DM's Guild or something like that. And if they fit the theme of my adventure, if it's if it's an underground cavern or something like that, and I say, okay, well, I'll take that, I'll print it off, I'll put it to the side. If my players ever decide that there's, I describe a cave or they try to cross a river and they look for another way across, oh, well, I've got an underground cave now. I just pull it out and okay, this is how we're going to run this. There's something underneath there, kind of thing. That's how I kind of deal with not being a sandbox DM, but also being prepared for a lot of different situations, which I haven't had to use yet. And I'm kind of excited to try and do it. So, but as far as incorporating players into the story, for me, it's something I'm still learning to do, and it's the one thing that I'm super excited about, because I laid out, like you said, darling, the skeleton of this is the boss, the big bad evil guy. This is what they're doing, and these are things along the way that the players have to either collect or solve or do something, kind of thing. So that's a loose framework. When I sat down and started to play with them, started to create their characters with them, and then started to learn their backstories for the first time, it was okay. That I can use that. Okay, this from here I can use this. Okay, I didn't really think about the gods in this campaign. Okay, but this player chose this god and this player chose this god. How can I make that conflict? So it's I mean, I've learned myself, I guess, now that I'm leaning heavily into a conversation with the characters to be able to make it their story, like Dave talked about. Because otherwise it's you're on the rails, and that can be fun for some players, but I think it's I think it's a lot more impactful when you really dive into it and make it impactful for that player.
By the way, if you're not stealing from other DMs' ideas, you're not trying hard enough, because no, seriously, I mean, we had a discussion about spells, and I was like, I took as many of those Ed Greenwood spells from Forgotten Realms and incorporated them into Greyhawk, and he was honored, because there's just some great stuff. All right, real quick, I'm going to answer this one for my players.
Yeah,
what my guys do? Classes, ideas, spells, magic items, plot hooks, all the way down the line for the last 40 years. So and campaign has grown because of their input, and not every idea is a great idea, but a lot of them are, and that's why they're vested in it, and It's been an honor to play and DM for them, and that's
Yeah.
why I love doing these special events and bringing out so many other people in the community, get them involved in games. So much that they want to come back and continue, and they name their group the Slav Squat Squad, for example,
Yeah.
or Ed's group the 2 Drink Minimum, or
Yeah, that-
Ooh,
Yes.
good party name.
Good.
Can I-
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, Ed Greenwood,
Can-
naming his party about the alcohol, which is hysterical. So,
Can I touch on something for 1 second
Sure,
that
sure,
Paul brought
absolutely.
up? So it's this whole idea of Sandbox versus Railroad. And this infuriates me to no extent. I think those are just made up words from DMs who are, I don't want to say afraid, but timid of letting their imagination run wild. Like Paul said, there's a point A and a point B. How the players get there, who cares? Again, their story. And it just, I hear about, I'll railroad my players, or I'll do a big sandbox and try and figure it out. At the end of the day, railroading to me is just the fact that some DMs are timid and they get worried about maybe judgment, about their own imagination. One aspect of my game is that there's a lot of times where I have nothing prepped. I'll write descriptions of buildings or NPCs, but I have no idea what the actual, here's point 1, here's point 2, here's point 3. And to any DM out there who is experienced or is new to the game or anything along those lines, have the confidence of your own imagination. Because I promise you, you can tell a good story if you let yourself. Just let it happen, and the players will pick up on that, and they'll run with it too. And then now you are playing D&D as opposed to running D&D. There's a huge difference between the two.
Yeah, and I completely I completely agree with the idea of doing that. It was incredibly intimidating to do for the first time.
100%.
I'm an over prepper. I'm a dirty mid maxer because I came from the WoW, rating world and everything as well. So for me, it was, I need to prep everything. I need to make sure that I have everything planned, and you can't plan for everything in D&D. And I learned that very, very, it was a hard lesson to learn. And actually the last session that we had 2 weeks ago was, there's things happened that I didn't know was going to happen, and I just kind of leaned into it, and the players gave me something back, and now we've got something else that's happening that I didn't even think about. And that was the least amount of prep that I did for any of my sessions so far. And it was just, okay, well, we know we got to go back to this town, but what's going to happen along the way? And then they met somebody and we talked, and now I've got a new NPC that I've built on the fly. Jay, what you said about or I'm not sure it was Jay or Dave, you said about leaning into your imagination and letting it, and not being afraid of it. You don't have to do it all by yourself. Like, your players 100% will help you and feed back and give you something else. It's not like I've got to come up with all of this at once. And that's what I learned, and fairly recently too. So
I use the word sandbox very heavily to categorize my DM style, and that is to hide the fact that I'm a chronic over prepper by astronomical means. And I'm also a very lazy DM, so I don't learn all the rules that properly and stuff. So I use Sandbox as an obfuscation to what's going on behind the screen to make it look cool when you just come up with things out of the fly and just run with it, so to speak. So it's a way to just tell the players, go in any direction you want. And so that's one of the I let the players simply run the game in whatever direction. If they want to kill something and also I just sprinkle out tons of ideas and oh, there's caves, and the players just run with it, and was like, damn, I need to flesh out these caves. They were just mentioned because it was a cool name, and I came up with it, and I talked about it during some mapping, and now both parties have gone obsessed about the caves, and they need to go there. So that is one of the things. And the other thing I let my players decide the story is that players are awesome at coming up, telling you what they want in the game in a way that what they're scared of, and oh, what if that is true, and they come up with a lot of cool story connections, so try to run that into the game. But the thing is, you can't go with it right away. You need to weave that in much later, so they can say, "Oh, we were right," like 6 months ago and something like that. So, so always when the players are scared of something, or come up with some out of the blue idea or something that they're scared of or some fascinated about or something, write it down in your plot thing, and then read the old plot 6-8 months later, and it's like, now I can weave in that NPC they were talking about, or that connection. Come back with it, because players love when you can go back, and then where you can reuse your prep too, that you can send them back, or they can want to go back to the town they were 6-8 months ago that you already mapped and you already have 10 NPCs in. If they have some cool connection they came up with, then afterwards find out that their idea was actually true 6 months later. They will not thought that you kind of came up with it because they told you so, and they can find it awesome fun to go back to wherever they were bullied or ran out of town when they were 2nd level. Now they're 8th level, they go back and they level the place that they told that bully to go screw himself. Players can love to have stuff like that. They get revenge, and they can set things right again, so to speak. So use the player's input, but don't tell them that you use it all the time.
No, and at the same time, you'll look like a genius every single time.
Yep.
I find that as when you step away from this whole concept of railroading and you allow yourself to begin to play and your imagination to flow, because your players are dealing with the same thing. They don't know the story. They don't know what you have prepped. So they're just kind of winging it as much as you are. So when you put yourself in a position where you're playing too, I find that the more leniency you give them into playing the game and changing the world and doing the things that they want, the more they'll just tell you what the campaign is.
Yep.
I mean, there's very little effort that you have to do on your side when your players are entirely immersed. You have to make the caves, absolutely, but they told you they wanted to
exactly
explore the caves, right?
Yep.
So it pinpoints. So instead of over prepping and doing the sandbox thing where it's like, oh, I have a million things to prep, let your players decide what they want to do, and then just build that. And the minute that you do that, and exactly what Anne was saying, it's almost like a foreshadowing when they're like, oh, I remember talking about this like 6 months ago. How did you do this? This is amazing. Like, I can't believe you planned for this. And it's like, well, I'm just a really good DM.
Yep.
And then just say that and mic drop and walk away.
Yep. Yeah. So take notes when your players come up with ideas like that. Write that down when it happens. Have a plot thing where you just put stuff like that in from the game session, and also, if possible, have the players write down session reports and session summaries, so to speak, and take cool ideas from that and put it into future possible plot points, and that way you can use them to prep future sessions.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do. Is it kind of came out accidentally, I guess, as is pretty much everything that I've done DMing. But one of my players in one of the campaigns, who's in the chat right now, Lux, she's an amazing note taker, and I rely on her notes a lot to remind me of what's going on, because I don't take notes. I didn't know I was supposed to do that. Sorry, Anna.
I don't take many, but I try to take a few.
Yeah, but the reason why I say this is because and now for the second group that I'm running for now, I'm getting them to do it not because of being lazy, but because of I want to know what you guys got out of the session, because the players don't get everything. They don't find everything that's in the room or in the cave or in the whatever. So I want to know what you saw, because otherwise, if I'm going to recap it or talk about it afterwards, then you might have interpreted something differently than what I said. And me telling you, okay, this is what happened last week, guys. We did this, this, and this. And then there's very often they've said, oh, I didn't see it that way. And now you've just completely changed their narrative and everything. So I love getting, that's one of the tools that I use, is I love getting that feedback from the players to tell me what happened last session. And having the players take notes, I think is a great, like you said, I think is a great tool to be able to do that. And
it's great. All of my players, I bought journals for them right out the gate and passed out journals our first session, and was kind of like, you know what, this is your notebook. You can, write whatever you feel during the session in this. And when I collect them all at the end, because I take everything back and I hold on to everything for everybody, and I get to read through them. It's really fun because I get to see the different perspectives of everybody too, and how their character is feeling and the things they've done. It's super cool.
That's really smart, actually, to get multiple sets of
stealing
notes.
that.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely
I like
stealing
that.
that. That is
It's
a
really-
phenomenal idea.
it's really fun to be doing everything with my ladies, like old school pen and paper and incorporating theater of the mind and all that, and then having them taking notes. It's really awesome. I have like just 4 different journals that I can read through before every
That's awesome.
session.
Oh, I just had a great. You know, it would be an awesome idea. Having them have the notebook for the actual adventures, but also getting them to do a short diary entry.
Yeah.
Yep.
That would be
And-
cool.
And
That
some
would be
players
really
are so
cool.
good at it. I had one player, he afterwards he went to Washington and became a speechwriter for
Wow.
politicians and stuff. But
Wow.
his sessions reports were like fantastic prose. It was like a book written about it. They were fabulous. They were awesome. So yeah, so they were
Nice.
really good. Yeah.
D&D
Do you-
leads to personable, real life careers. A lot of people have or sales
Yeah.
reps or
Mhm.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Do you guys now I just had a question. I completely
Go for
lost
it.
because I was
Go
thinking
for
about
it.
the
It's round
speech
table
writing.
this.
no the when you're talking about notes and taking notes. Yeah, no, I lost it. Sorry. Go on. It'll come back to me.
Yeah, I have one thing I want to add
Go for it.
that I just thought about is
Mhm.
the description. When you give descriptions of rooms, characters, and places and stuff that happens in it, don't fall into the old school trap. If you look at, and I'm going to take the example, if you read the descriptions of especially rooms and locations in old school adventures.
Whoops. There you go. I hit the wrong button.
Oh,
I hit the
yeah.
wrong button.
Oh no! Oh no!
There you go. I
We'll go
hit
back
the
again.
wrong
Okay, good.
freaking
You're
button.
back.
I told you it was
Yeah, you
coming.
You didn't crash.
Oh, Jesus. I'm trying to do shout outs and I hit a wrong button. One in
Yeah.
the show.
Yeah.
All right, I'm
so
sorry.
Social
Anna.
streamers, folks. We're
Jeez.
good.
That's okay.
We're all
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
Yeah,
Oh
so
my
old school
God.
adventures, you had the description of
Okay,
the room. Then he
squashed
said like,
everything.
it's like a 60 by 40 by 10 whatever feet room, and the walls are so and so color and whatever and blah blah. And then like 22 sentences down, it was like, oh yeah, there's a big ogre at the front of the door trying to kill you, so to speak. So what I'm meaning is that try to make the description from the character's perspective, what the
Yes.
characters see, and use the characters. Meaning, if there's like a newbie player and the character is like doesn't know much and so on and so forth, he would know or see a lot of details. Like they could pass a place for someone who could ambush them easily. But if they're playing characters that are like 18th level and they've been through war and hell and not back, they would see that it's a perfect spot to do an ambush. They would not be surprised by it. So always tell the stories and description from the character perspective, meaning start with the important, meaning there's an ogre trying to kill you, and then don't talk about any of the details in back unless the character rolls a perception to look through whatever it is. So skip out all these kind of engineering details or home decoration stuff, that there is like a wine, something sitting like a jug of wine half drinking on the table. They would never see that when there is an ogre trying to kill them. So make sure you tell the story and narrate from the character perspective when you do it. I think that's both saves time and it makes the story much more engaging.
Yeah,
Everybody,
yeah. And
Luke-
if I could add on to that, if you want to do well by the descriptions, use the senses. That is the most important thing
Mhm.
for
Yep.
immersion
Very
you could
cool.
possibly do.
Mhm.
Because walking into a room and reading it off like, okay, here we got, it's a 10 by 10, there's a this in
Yeah.
the room and then this in the room. That's not going to do anything for your immersion. It's not going to pull your players either. I mean, we
Yep.
call them hooks for a reason, right? But when you walk into the room, the stale smell of the air, the cool breeze on the back of your neck that,
Yep.
you know, put your
Mhm.
yourself at unease. That's the kind of stuff that it's like that's what they want to hear, and that's when
Yep.
I'm going to get them more into the
Mhm.
role at that point.
Yep.
100% agree with you, Anna.
Everyone say hello. Luke Gygax is participating in chat.
hi.
So
Hello.
yeah.
Hey,
Hey,
Luke.
Luke.
Yep.
Good to meet you, sir.
Yes. And if you're not going to GaryCon, you should be. Anna and myself are going in March, so we'll be there. Cannot wait. And Mandy's on too, part of Darling Slav
Hello.
Squad. And Mandy was on the
Yeah,
last.
Hey, Mandy.
Mandy was on the last DM's Roundtable we had, and that was a great show as well. Thank you. All right, so one question from the audience. We'll hit through this quickly. What are your thoughts on PCs evil aligned PCs? Just a base question. I mean, as me as if it's a DM plot line and I'm throwing it in there for a certain reason, that's the only time I ever allow evil player characters. So
Wait, you wanted this to be quick?
elaborate, please elaborate as much as you.
Dive in, Paul. Dive in. Get him.
Yeah, I think some of my players are here, and I can't say the things that I want to say, but I think that that you can play an evil character that's the goals still align with the players. You can play an evil character unless they're like pure, just like tropey, like completely, pure evil, big bad evil guy kind of evil. But I feel like the majority of people that maybe not so great have like moral ambiguity or whatever. They kind of take a step into the evil realm once in a while, or they shoot first and ask questions later, or little things like this. That's, to me, that's how I would do it, and I don't have any issues with that. Okay. If it's a pure like evil campaign where you want to play an evil PC and you just want to screw over players, well then that's a different game, that's a different topic, something entirely different. But I really think that it adds a lot of dynamic to, okay, you know what? I'm not going to save the orphans from the burning building. I'm going to sit there and watch and see if anybody else does, and then maybe jump into the last moment and take that take the glory kind of thing. Like, I think that's how you can play an evil character and not upset the people at your table. So that's how I feel about it, and I don't know if that's controversial or not, but I'm okay with it.
Wait till my answer, Paul. Don't worry about it. Say whatever you want, buddy. Say whatever you want.
Yeah, long story short, I'm okay with it as long as it doesn't affect the other players' enjoyment of the game. That is like paramount, number one thing for me.
That's a huge
right.
Point.
So I have a rule at my table that there's no PvP unless it's consensual. If you guys would talk about it, beforehand or whatever, or ask or something like that, then that's fine. And that includes like stealing from each other or anything like that. Just, you have to ask first. But other than that, do whatever you want. It's your table, your game. So I think that as long as you're not messing around with other players and taking away their enjoyment, I think you can do evil.
Okay. Who else wants to handle that question?
You want to hop in on this, darling?
Yeah, please.
Me?
Yeah, hit it.
Yeah, please.
So this isn't something that I've had to deal with yet or really ran into. But okay. I think it's kind of a cool idea. I think it brings it back to the players creating the story. And if you had a character that was interested in playing, a person who was interested in playing an evil character, I think if you sat down with them and had a discussion on ways that their story can intertwine with the like overarching story, I think it could be really cool, honestly. Yeah, I would be into it personally, but I love a good evil character.
Okay. Okay. And Dave, how about you?
Oh, this'll destroy me, but I'm willing to say it because it's my own brain. Okay. I think alignment should be removed from the game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think that the complexity you take away by adding alignment is doing nothing but hurting your storytelling. I think that if you're going to go based on, well, this person's evil and this person's good, then that's Disney. You can obviously tell this is an evil person. You can obviously tell this is a good person. But when it comes down to the actual PCs, they have enough complexity overall that there's two sides to every story. Usually the heroes and the victors and the ones who write history are the good side. That doesn't necessarily mean that the evil side was evil. They were doing something else. You look at two soldiers in war fighting for two different sides. Are they evil because they're fighting each other? Absolutely not. It adds the complexity to the story of the game overall that, it makes the players question. Like, for example, in my game right now that I'm running online, they have no idea who the big bad is. There's two potentials. And it's just a matter of which side do you believe is the cause that you want to move forward with. It's not necessarily that one is evil and one is good, but the amount of decision-making that has to go into that from the player's perspective, because again, this is the player's story. That is going to tell a tale that is going to be that epic level that I was talking about.
Okay. So I love everything these answers, and there's no right or wrong answer to this, obviously. I think a lot of it is setting based too. If you're an evil character, for example, in the Greyhawk campaign setting, I think it's a good versus evil struggle. So I see in my old school game, I see a need for alignment. I don't allow evil characters. We've tried it; it just doesn't work. Now there's a lot of neutral characters. There's a lot of characters that are on that fringe. They're on that fringe from one wrong misstep and they're going to the dark side. But, I appreciate it and respect everyone's opinions on that.
Jay, let me ask you this though on that.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you're bound by the rules because of alignment? Because I know that in earlier editions there was certain things you can do versus certain things you can't do. In 5e, it's a matter of if you're a paladin and break your oath, that's the only repercussions of being a good versus evil alignment. There's literally nothing else that ties you to that in terms of the rules in 5e.
It depends. Once again, now it's just going to depend on the DM, but there is in a grandiose scale of a setting where you have a Cambion, which a lot of people know is a half demon, is running an entire area of the world, enslaving millions, slaughtering. There's no gray areas, right? Evil.
There's no gray areas in Greyhawk?
There's no gray areas with that.
What is happening
with in the lands of Ayus? There's no gray areas. You know evil when you see it. It's kind of like Sauron. You know evil when you see it.
Sure.
Visceral, pure evil. There's a place for the characters. Wherever the character, there's mercenaries. There's those out for themselves. And in fact, Darling and I had a discussion on this. When she first gave me her character description, I misplaced what alignment I thought she was. And she told me that I was wrong on that, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry I made that mistake. And there you go. So there's tweaks and it's a guide. It's a guide. But if you have a lawful good paladin in our game slaughtering children, it just doesn't, it doesn't work. There's those lines you don't cross. So once again, I think alignment is a guide that it's a comfort zone because I've been using it for 42 years, right? Whereas a newer DM doesn't see a need for it. And
see, I do personally. I could see David's point of maybe if I was in a group with experienced players who have been playing D&D for a long time, it would be maybe a little bit different, but all of my ladies are brand spanking new. They have never played D&D a day in their life. Mm-hmm. And to give them an alignment for their characters, I think helps them with the personal development and figuring out their characters and how to play them. Because I can always, when they're stuck on something, I can always go back to, well, look at your alignment and maybe think about what decision your character would make based off of like its basic principles of what it believes in the world. So I think it is as Jay said, it's a really good guide to have, especially for new players. But if I were playing with like a much more advanced group, I don't know. I think alignment, if you have people who are really, really good at character building, then they maybe don't need that guideline as much as someone who's maybe a little newer and needs to think about, ask themselves certain questions.
Yeah, the cool thing is that, and I'm just going to point over to chat because I saw it come up, but Luke said something extremely important, is that I think alignment nowadays is more of a nuance.
Yep.
It's something that, you can use as a guide rather than a definitive point. And that's really all I was saying is that when I say, get rid of alignment, it's more so from a mechanical perspective. Like I don't need alignment as a DM necessarily, but it's great for the players, especially new ones when they're really first joining the table. So 100% agree with you, darling.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to give you an example of where I need alignment. Okay. The Order of Ulick. My campaign's based on it. It's good aligned characters. The good is a organization of good trying to destroy evil. If I had evil characters and that's an example of an organization that wants its members to have a certain ethical backgrounds. Once again, nuance. I'm not saying, I think that hard edge on alignment is kind of gone away over the years, but I really, I see in my game, there's a need for it. And like I said, there's no right or wrong way to play, and there's no right or wrong answer here.
Yeah. I'm more devious when it comes to use of alignment, and alignment have become mechanically almost insignificant. The lawful chaotic, I completely got rid of all that alignment in mechanical terms at all. It's just basic guidelines I have that I write down for NPCs and stuff, just to know, and for realms to kind of what kind of legal system or not they have. Not something I will torture my players with at all, so to speak. It's not some. It's just for me, for my kind of thinking and remembrance. Instead of saying like a number, I use those terms. But and the good and the evil, it's still there, but it's mechanically much toned down, and it's not important in that sense. But the evil side of things, I think it's important to make interesting stories. You need the villains that do bad things, so to speak. And I also try to kind of lure my players to have their characters into evil. I want the characters to become evil, so to speak. I want the players to be like, oh damn, we want to go out and kill everything, and we want to be murder hobos killing everything. I got one. I've said it a couple of times on these shows before. That there was one group of players, and they were like, they've never played with me before, and they could simply go around murdering whatever. They thought that everything was there for them to be killed, so they went around, and eventually the people in the neighborhood start hiring these kind of high-level guns for hire kind of people to go after them, and after, because there were so many, and then the players realized we are the villains. We are the ones going around killing everybody. So that like we become these murder hobos. So they realized that we should discard these characters and start over again, because they thwarted the whole plot line completely, and they became the murder hobo that the main villain used as an excuse to become more evil and stuff like that. And they start, is he on our side now? And so that was kind of funny. So I always try to tempt the players to get angry and hateful and all that, in order for them to start thinking about these values and start, and the world, I want the world to be against them, so to speak, and they be hateful and stuff, and lure them into temptation over time. That can work. They can make interesting stories.
That's the hero's journey, right?
Yeah.
That's the hero's journey.
Most important thing.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
You need conflict for a good story.
Yep.
Without conflict, everything is rainbows and puppy dogs all the time. I'm gonna go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I'm bored.
So make sure you bore your players. You torture them with boredom and stuff like that occasionally, to not give them levels, don't give them treasures. They are so pissed when they see something, they're going to kill it. That makes interesting stories. Yeah.
Well, I find that if you go down that road too, it builds up that, and it's not all the time. I'm saying that a lot of the time, it builds up a hubris for the players. And then they start moving down a road where it's like, well, I could kill anybody, or I could do whatever I want.
Yep.
And it's exactly what you were saying. And it's that moment when they hit 6 o'clock on the hero's journey. And I know I keep referencing it. Chat, go and look up a diagram. You can find it anywhere. But it's that as soon as they start swinging back up, it's that rebirth process.
Mm-hmm.
And that's such a magical moment with any kind of storytelling, where it's like they're starting to become the true heroes that need to be. And that's such an important point for the story and for the players at the same time. Couldn't agree with you more, Anna.
Yeah. And make sure that the world actually reacts to what the party and the player characters are doing. That's really important. If they start murdering people left and right, there should be uproar around it, and the world should react to what they're doing, good and bad.
Yep.
Luke is departing for dinner, but he just said, yeah, if I murder a hobo, Dad would turn heroes on you, and you wouldn't last long. So that just came from Luke Onyx, everyone.
Exactly. That's the way to do it.
There you go. And thank you, Luke, for participating in the discussion tonight. We really appreciate it. Always love you hopping on, and whenever you're on the show, we love it as well.
Yep.
All right. So how any of Dave or Paul or Darling, do you have questions for the rest of the panel?
I do have a question.
Let's do it.
This is something I haven't ran into yet as a DM, but I want some advice from people who probably have. How do you deal with scenarios when your group gets split apart and people are kind of off on their own adventures? How do I deal with that?
Splitting the party. Lovely.
It makes me really nervous. Thus far, my group, being all newbies, have clung closely together, holding each other's coattails, praying to all the gods that they don't die instantly. But
so I'm gonna give you something that I notice that is a challenge for all of us about it. Splitting the party can lead to bored players on stream. And that's a problem, right? And we all run into that sometimes. To stay attentive on that. So it's a tough thing to nuance, but sometimes you as a DM want to make it necessary. That's how, and maybe some of us have some ideas on how to. We want to challenge your party and your players, because sometimes it's absolutely you must split the party or you're not going to be successful. Anyone want to continue that discussion? Because
Yeah,
it's
I'll hop
tough.
in.
Go for it.
I'll hop in for a minute. And it's again, I take it as, as you described yourself, Jay, as a visual DM. I consider myself very much a narrative DM.
Okay.
And I think there was another wonderful streamer, Dead Aussie Gamer. He coined the term the first time that I heard it, called a cinematic DM. And I think that's exactly the perfect way to handle a split party, is that if you start looking at it as scenes within a show, when you watch a show and it's like that moment where the action's happening and they're cutting to this person and then they do one thing and then they cut to someone else and then they're doing something, you don't spend a ton of time doing, the small items for that. I almost run it when I split the party like an initiative order, where it's a matter of what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? And it doesn't necessarily need to be in combat, but it allows everybody to touch on what's happening in that specific circumstance, and it allows them to have that moment to shine. So, and I'm not saying you only have 60 seconds to give to someone, but give 5 minutes here. And then give 5 minutes here. And then they'll start hearing each other about what each other are participating in at that point in time. And maybe a bigger plan will start hatching, where it's like one group is going to attack from the flanks and one group is going to attack from the side. But you're still involving them as long as everybody keeps talking at the same time. Keep the story rolling. Don't focus on one thing as opposed to the other. Let the scenes do the cut scenes. And then all of a sudden you have a really compelling moment that can come together in something fucking epic. And my apologies for the language.
It's okay. It's okay.
That's
so
awesome.
Friday night I had my son sit next to me, and Balfour was on. He said the F word 4 times in 10 seconds. So don't worry about it.
Listen, I get really passionate about these discussions.
all good,
and
man.
It just kind of happens
great.
sometimes. So my apologies.
No, it's okay.
Awesome.
Paul?
I've yet to have a party split, so
Okay.
I'm kind of in the same
Yeah, okay.
situation. But like, it's funny, as Dave was talking about, there's a moment that happened in a dungeon that my players were in recently, where they had touched a door and they didn't disarm the trap, and they like bamfed into another room, and I described it as they just disappeared. And then somebody else tried something else and they touched it and they disappeared. And then the other players were like, okay, what happens to me? This is my turn. Like, you don't know yet, because the cinematic part of it, the movie is here. So all of this is happening until that's resolved over there, kind of thing. So I'm glad to know that I kind of did that halfway decently. if that's if that's the advice that you have, Dave. But yeah, I think it was a really good question, because I would struggle with doing that for longer than the 10 minutes or so that it was in my game.
Well, I think you did the exact right thing, Paul, is that, and it's a difficult 100%. It's a difficult thing to accomplish, because you've got a whole bunch of moving parts as a DM all at the same time, especially when you're splitting the party. So with newer individuals to the game, you absolutely have to double down in terms of the meta in that moment. You don't know this. You heard it at the table, but your character doesn't know this.
Yeah.
So there's a certain amount of, they have to think about, and it really gets the wheels turning from the players at the moment. And I love to see that smoke coming out of their ears. Like, how can we incorporate this into what we do next without intentionally knowing what is happening on the other side of the room? And it's brilliant. They come out, players will always astound you. I love players for that reason.
So
no, for sure, yeah. And my players are in chat right now saying that they should split the party next session. So
Godspeed, sir.
my last D&D session, the Thursday before Thanksgiving, we finished up Tribulations in the Gravemoor. I forced them to split. So two of them had to go outside above where the dungeon entrance was on the hill where the ruins were, and they had to light this magical signal fire to basically suck the emanations of magic that were protecting the skeleton where it made him unkillable, and they could not do anything to him, and they're fighting him and nothing's happening to him until the outside did that. And one of the players, when they went up, thought it was bad and threw all the wood all over the place, and so the people outside had to run and get it again and rebuild the firewood up, which was really hysterical that they had done that the previous week. So I'm
picturing a Bernie Hill moment right there.
Yeah. And so that's kind of the thing. I try to challenge it so that because they always think, oh, Jay, you split the party, you're going to die. No, in this case, they had to split. So it's different every time.
I was going to say it depends. The problem comes with, meaning there are three modes of games, so to speak. You have combat, you have exploration when you go through dungeons or in the wilderness and you work in like minutes, and combat, of course, works in rounds. And then you have like downtime where you basically work in days. And as long as both splits are in the same game mode, it's usually works fine. If you have combat and they split up and fight two ways into two different rooms, you can still just continue the combat. It doesn't matter much if they're in a different room, even if they can't shout to each other. You do combat and you go around, doesn't matter much, so to speak. The same thing in exploration when you take like per minute and you go around the table telling what to do in the same downtime. The problem comes when the one group is going to town to get resources or something like that, and they have travel, and the other half of the party ends up in combat, and they get all the fun for 1 hour and like 25 rounds to fight all the orcs, and the other characters just have to sit. That's where you get the problem. So one solution is get them all into combat both at the same time, but try to smooth it over, so to speak. So if you be wary of that, as long as you're in the same time, downtime, you can just go around the table. Oh, what do you do today? What do you do today? And spend like 15-20 seconds per player. That doesn't matter if they're in different areas. It's when you get into two different game modes with the different split parties, so to speak, that's when you run into trouble. So if you're aware of that, you can stay clear of some of the issues, so to speak, and at least prepare for it mentally, so you're ready and prep the players a little bit for it. So yeah,
and if you can, in those situations, try and bring the combat together.
Yeah.
If they're in like two different rooms kind of thing, there's always such an awesome moment where they crash through the wall, and then all of a sudden it just becomes this massive mega battle at that point, which is so awesome to do.
Mega battles are always fun.
That's cool. Yeah.
Great questioner, darling.
Yeah,
Darling, when you have to depart, you let me know, because my guess is we're going to run a little late tonight. Is everyone okay with that? I know Darling may have to run off, but we're going to...
I'm like 10 minutes or so.
Okay,
it'll give me enough time to switch over, if that's
Sounds good. Paul and David, you care if we run a little past the allotted time?
All the time in the world for you, my friend.
I don't know what the end time was, so the answer is yes.
Okay, there you go.
That's awesome.
15 minutes normally. See how the time has flown already? It's flown by.
Yeah.
I'm known for like 6-hour Hops and Dragon streams. Trust me, I know how late things can go.
Oh, you mean those 3-hour streams? I've heard of those.
Yes. I've finally resigned to they're not 3-hour streams anymore.
All right, Paul, David, the ladies have both asked questions. It's time for you two to ask us a question. That's the round table. What do we have?
Paul, you want to hit this?
Yeah, because I didn't tell you that you had to come with a question, so I'll give you a minute.
I got my question. I'm ready.
To be honest, I'm trying to decide here between a couple because I want and I'm not going to take up a lot of time doing it, but I want to know your opinions on a few of these things, but that might be for another time. But I want to know basically how we mentioned it before earlier about death in D&D. And we talked about if there's a place in 5th edition for death anymore. I mean, actual players, dying, not death in the world or anything like that. I approach it a different way in my game. I know that Anna obviously approaches it differently in her game with the 0 level for as long as she did. But I want to know how, if it has a place in 5th edition anymore, and if it does, how do you use it? Is it just plot armor that kind of keeps players alive? Do you treat your characters or your players at the table differently depending on how attached they are to their character? Do you use that to your advantage, kind of thing? Like I'm really, really curious about that because I'm terrified to kill my characters, even though I did it once and I almost killed another before. I'm interested in that. I'm interested in how you guys look at death in 5th edition.
I feel like it's just I haven't personally had to deal with the death of any of my players' characters yet. But part of me is kind of excited for the day that I do, because for me, like I don't think I would spare anyone for their involvement in the story. I feel like it would happen very organic and naturally. And if your character's dead, I guess your character's dead and you gotta re-roll. And we'll find you somewhere along the way.
Yeah, I would I think does death have a place in it? 2000%. And that's why I hate the fact that it's impossible to kill a character in 5e, because there's so much energy in those moments.
Yeah.
As much as you have those moments that are extremely tense, and Paul, you know how much I love the whole ratcheting up the tension concept in very specific moments. But death is something final. It's something important that happens to everyone. And especially when you're an adventurer, when one of your party members goes down, take the time to allow for that eulogy, allow for that moment to really embellish that moment as much as possible. Because for someone, that could have been one of their best friends that just died. I know people who have gotten so far into their character that it's like reading a really good book. At the end, if they die, that's heartbreaking.
Actually, I have a really funny story about this and about that, because last week, my character, my dwarf cleric, her best friend did die in our game last week. And I think death is a really cool thing in terms of character development for the remaining characters, how that can change maybe the way they feel and the way they look at life. And she's a very like bubbly, happy go lucky, always ready for battle, let's have a brew kind of lady. And her best friend just died, and now it's kind of she's seen like the darkness now and what can happen in battle when you actually become attached to the people around you. And it actually like affected me personally. I after my game, I went upstairs, my husband was sleeping, and I like threw open the door and went, my best friend died. My husband like shot up out of bed and his eyes are huge and he's like, whoo, and I was like, you wouldn't understand, it's in D&D. And I like went to like tell him about my character's best friend. I was like, oh, Burke. And my husband's just like half awake, like, you're an insane woman.
But do you see how important it is for that reason?
Yeah, 100%. It's very important.
It brings a sense of realism to the game, where mourning can happen and the repercussions of what had happened. Maybe they made a wrong step. Maybe they made a stupid call. And there's consequences to an action. And I think, Jay, this is an important thing to note in 5e, is that there's so many mechanics within there that let players get stupid overpowered. But there's always the fact that actions will always have consequences. And no matter what the rules are, if you apply that to your game, if you let things like death happen to it, you have such important moments. I can think a million times over where no one cares about, well, I rolled a 1 on my second death save. They don't care about the roll. They care about what happens afterward, because that's what's going to last in their mind. That's what they're going to always remember, the death of that character in that moment, not the roll, not the mechanics for it.
Yeah. And I think you made a really good point earlier about taking the time to make it impactful. I was so shocked when I had killed Tilly's character in session 2 that I wasn't prepared, and I was shocked, and it wasn't impactful. So as far as if you look, criticize your own style and everything, I feel like I failed that point in time as a DM. The next session, I had a basically I kind of retconned it as you have a dream sequence kind of thing. You've dreamt of your player, and you all dream about different things, and you kind of remember this player that kind of fought by your side for a little bit. So but I think that because it didn't feel to me fulfilling when it happened. So I think you're right there, Dave.
I got to ask a question because maybe I'm just being ignorant, but in old school, it's expensive and it's high level characters, but there's raised deads. Your characters weaken. There's resurrections. There's none of that in 5e. Once you're dead, you're dead.
No, there is.
Well,
yeah.
there is, but then there's resurrection, there's revivify, there's spare the dying, which is a cantrip. If
Yeah.
someone dies within 1 minute, you can resurrect them, no problem. So death is right.
Okay, all right. So that's a little that's a little crazy.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
No, but I think that there are two things that are usually that you remember and are assets, and that is fumbles, and when you screw up and when you die. Those are assets in campaigns, because those are moments that, remember when you go back and talk about what happened in previous sessions, it's usually when you do big mistakes, fumbles and stuff like that. Those are the things you remember. So when characters die and when characters do dumb stuff, so to speak, or fail thing, those are assets that you need to cherish, so that you always do it. And then start thinking as a DM what happens to the character that dies in your campaign world and in your game, so to speak. Meaning, what happens to them? Do the soul go somewhere? Do they linger? Can evil clerics take them, possess the souls afterwards, making it impossible to resurrect them, etc., etc.? Meaning, there are myriad of interesting gaming opportunities that opens up with a character die, and I've used it many times before, and I used to have like strict interesting rules and stuff that I used in 3.5 and Pathfinder. So meaning the soul can linger around for a little bit, and then if you turn the body undead, so to speak, then the soul is kind of out there and needs to be rescued and stuff, and you have to go, and you can, as a soul, you can try to force you into the thoughts and dreams, especially of other people around you, so to speak. So when they fall asleep, you can yell and scream at them in their sleep, trying to tell things, because you see everything. You get true sight and you can see things, and you can kind of linger around for a bit. Then you have to start thinking, where do you want to go? And other powers might come and grab you, and because the lower powers want to have souls to drag down to the lower planes. So you have to hide from various evil clerics and demons and other monsters who wants to come and steal you and drag you down to the lower planes. Especially if you have a TPK, a whole new campaign arcs open up, and you can drive the players mad by going down that rabbit hole like crazy. I did that once when it was a TPK. All of a sudden, it become not being dragged down to the abyss, and the campaign took a whole new turn right away, so to speak, and you can have it real fun, especially when it's intelligence is your movement rate, and all sorts of weird things happen, so to speak.
Yeah.
And if you want to, and for any DM out there handling death, if you want to have one of the most dramatic moments in your game, absolutely, long term, you can do a ton of stuff. Short term, make your players get in touch with the family members of the fallen.
Ooh,
That's
really
an
cool.
insanely powerful moment.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're talking about alignment earlier and evil characters. You're definitely an evil DM. Oof.
Yeah.
No. I'm just saying, like, how do you approach that? Make it real. Because that's true immersion. When you turn around and you make someone call the parents of one of your fallen allies, you get goosebumps on that.
Yeah.
As a DM, I do every single time. When I have to role play those moments as the parents of the fallen one, that is something else entirely.
Yep. And make it busy for the player, meaning all of a sudden the player is in a more scary situation than ever, and he needs to make all sorts of rolls or whatever. So make the players who have characters still alive being jealous of the ones that being killed, because he gets all the fun and things are getting scary and hairy and all that for a while. That turns the whole thing upside down for a bit. That could be, you can tweak. And there's the Ghost Walk campaign. Get that book. I think it's available as a PDF. Read it. And there's some other rules. And then, and you can get it as a PDF on Drive for RPG, I think. And then pick and cherry pick the things you want and write your own version of what happens after death. So to speak.
That's cool.
Great
Just
question.
searched it up. Gonna take a read afterwards. And thank you for that. I had plans for dead characters, but you just gave me some better plans, so I'm taking notes.
For sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yep.
Well,
Darling,
guys, I have to. Yeah,
Yes.
Graham.
Listen, you'll see us in a little while. When we're done, we'll read into you.
Oh,
Yep.
thank you so much.
No
it was
problem.
so great talking to all of you.
Yes.
Thank you.
If you ever want a
I was
random
down
player
for it.
in your game, I am down. You all sound like super fun DMs to play with. So
Okay.
thanks again.
Yeah.
Pleasure
I
to
will
meet you,
talk to you
darling.
soon,
Yeah,
darling, and
pleasure to
we'll
meet
talk
you.
about what I'm going to do with your character for the 18th as well. I'll let you know. All right, and we'll talk about it. So have a
Don't
good
you
one.
kill
Thank you
my
so-
Rosie.
I
She's
won't.
my baby.
But Anna already told Anna what's going on. She's like, "Ooh,
Yep.
don't
I'm
worry."
excited.
All right, we'll
I'm
talk.
Speaking of
excited.
death in D&D,
Yep.
Oh no, poor sweet Rosie.
Yeah.
Thanks again, guys.
All right, we'll talk
Have
to
a
you
good night.
soon. Whoops.
All right, good
Pleasure.
night.
That is the wrong one. So in case anyone doesn't know, the Slav Squat Squad will be back on the 18th. But unfortunately, Rosie Applebottom Darlings actually has her family's doing Christmas that night on the 18th, so she can't make it. But the Mandy, Little Bones, Myriad, and Tamlord's wife, and Josh, and I may add another one-shot person into that group for the 18th of December, that Saturday night special. Christmas falls on the 25th, so it's hard to get a lot of Saturday night specials in this month. Yes, Bones, it's going to be a fun night. The Dead Never Rest Easy is the name of the adventure, so you can just imagine. So
Yep.
there you go. Yes, it will be fun. So let's keep this going here. I don't think Paul's asked his question yet, right? Or
Yeah,
was
my
that
question
yours?
was
That was yours.
yeah,
It wasn't.
that
Oh,
was
David
Paul's
has
question.
his. David, I apologize, David.
So my question for the group, and this has come up numerous times on our streams. I think it's the one caveat that one of the questions I get asked the most. Brand new DM, never run a game in his life, or her game in her life, or their lives. What's the number one piece of advice that you give them?
Number one piece of advice.
isn't that my question at the end of every Random Encounters episode, Dave?
Probably. I think I stole it from you. Listen, I
Speaking
didn't
of-
know I had to have a question. Okay, Paul. I had to grab it from somewhere. Shout out Hops and Dragons.
Speaking of stealing
Anytime.
from other DMs. No, that's good. That's good.
So the number one piece of advice. Don't want to. Either of you want to take that?
I can just say that it's like any sport, any occupation, whatever you do, you have to walk before you run. And so make sure you do it often and realize that you're doing something that other people find fun and interesting, so to speak. So, and it's very, very rewarding. But I would say train, do it often, try to do it as often as possible, and just run with it, so to speak. That train and do it often. And don't do like mega sessions for 6 hours the first time and run enormous campaigns. Start getting whatever module you find interesting and just run it. A small thing for an hour or something like that. Just do it often. Small encounters, whatever. Just small portions and do it often. So you get the idea of describing things, running things, leading the discussion a little bit, because that's what you're, a narrator and kind of the discussion leader, so to speak.
Great answer.
I got a great answer. It's going to sound arrogant.
Do everything like Jay.
No.
Okay, I just-
No, because you know. Let me tell you
Run a
something.
Greyhawk game.
I am so considering the 5e styles here. My game's foreign almost, right? Because it's more like it's almost like a war game style. No.
Yeah.
Do not stream and DM for the first time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can
Don't
confirm. Can
do it.
confirm.
Don't, because streaming a DM game is different than playing in person a DM game or playing on VTT. There's a lot of different nuances. You're under time constraints. You may be under. Hey, you may have players jumping in and out, and then you're like, what do I do? There's so many variables when it comes into live streaming a game. So first thing is get your DMing style down first. Figure out how you want to DM. You know, your style, how you want to relate to your players, and then once you cut that down, then if you're a live streamer, consider doing it. That would be my advice.
And ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen, that is why Jay is a veteran of the game.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, seriously, that was absolutely find your style. 100%. 100%.
Mandy, it's okay for you to troll me because Josh isn't on for you to do that too. So that is great. The Slav, I can't say it. Slav Squad. Oh my God, I can't say it 4 times. There's no way. So and,
No,
Mandy,
we don't do trolling in our community. We show love. We show
That is
lots of
that-
love in our community.
with Mandy, that is the highest compliment you can get is having her troll you.
Fair enough. fair enough.
Absolutely, it is. Yes, it is a joy, and I love that you are here participating. Paul, what do you think? Wonderful question.
Yeah, so I think mine's not going to be it's similar to you guys, more philosophical, but to me it's it's the rules are the rules, right? They take, you can look them up, you can you look up stat blocks, you can look up all that, but I think that the one thing that I would impart to anybody who learned how to DM or even wanted to try it the first time would be to make sure that your players are comfortable and make sure that they're having fun at the end of the day. Make sure that, I mean, for me, inclusion at the table is super important. So if your players don't feel like they want to show up, they're not going to show up, and you're not going to play D&D anymore. So I think that the DM wins when the players are having fun. And the tools in which you do that through would be just communicating with your players, talking to them about things, having debriefs after sessions or after a couple sessions, doing the session 0 safety tools if you feel that's important for your table as well. Just anything that, like, I especially with a couple, I have a couple beginner players, like I said, in one of my campaigns, and if after I did a few of these things, some of them reached out to me afterwards and said, thank you for making me feel comfortable here. Thank you for saying the things that you did, because now I'm a lot more comfortable to be able to open up with role play and open up with not knowing the rules and trying to do something as well. So I think I'd stress the aspect of making your players and the people at the table a lot more comfortable.
Fantastic answer. And if I could add anything to all of this, for all of the new DMs out there, relax.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
First
great.
and
Yeah.
foremost, relax. It's a game. You see amazing DMs. All of us are accomplished DMs, regardless of where we are in terms of our learning. This is not a pass or fail. This is a journey that you've selected to go on.
Yes.
Enjoy the journey. You're going to get things wrong 100% of the time. I get things wrong all the time. I'm sure Jay, even after as many years as he's running,
Absolutely.
he gets things wrong too. That's okay. Your players aren't going to care. You don't need to be an encyclopedia with photographic memory of every single rule in the entire game. Remember that as much as it's your job to make sure that you facilitate fun for your players, you facilitate fun for yourself.
Yep.
Because that's what's going to keep you in this game the longest. Whatever it takes, whatever you have to do to enjoy this, follow that path. Don't do anything else, regardless of anything that we've told you tonight. Make sure that you're doing it your way, and you're doing it down the road that you want to go down, because that's the magic of D&D. It's everybody's game.
Absolutely. Great point.
Yep.
I feel we had a question about paid DMs out there, and hey, I don't care. I'm for, if you want to go out there and you want to consider yourself a professional DM, that's fine. Hey, everyone, it's a free country, free world. Do whatever you want. For me, it's not for me. It's just not for me. I want this to be about community growing, and so some people though, I know a lot of people that do paid DMs. Anyone have any thoughts on that? On that quickly?
Yeah, I'm on both sides. I see both sides to it. I think that as somebody who is incredibly busy with a full-time job, I bartend on the weekends, I manage an Airbnb, I play sports throughout the week, I run 2 D&D campaigns. Like, it's a lot. My schedule is very, very full. If somebody wanted me to run a campaign for them, not that I think I'm worthy, or not, I don't say worthy, but experienced enough to be able to be paid for it. But if somebody wanted me to run another campaign, I would have to sacrifice something. So I understand the whole getting paid for your time, getting paid for your experience, getting paid for that whole experience. But at the same time, on the other side of it, I'm doing it right now for fun. And once you introduce an exchange of funds there, then the expectation has to be at a certain level, I find. And then that adds another level of stress to it as well. So I definitely see both sides.
Well, I'm going to call you out for a second.
Gladly.
And I'm going to do this every single time I talk to you.
Yep.
Given where you are in the game, you are a fantastic DM. I can literally show you proof of that from all of the people that love you for running your DM style. Don't ever say you're not worth it. Any DM that steps into the chair is worthy of the title, as long as they don't TPK their players every single session. And then then you're just a jerk. But in terms of running paid games, that's a tough one, Jay.
It is, isn't it?
Really tough one.
I don't begrudge anyone who wants to do it, though. I really don't.
No, I know.
I don't, but I'm not doing it. It's not for me. I got a real job. I don't say that facetiously. I have a job. I've been at for 27 years. I have a family. That's my number one priority. This is a beloved hobby, right? This is a joy, as I've had since I was 12 years old. I don't want to turn it into something that I have to do in a tedious way. I think that does it for me personally.
So with that being said, sorry, Dave. That being said, the whole adage, and I don't know how much I agree with this, but do something you love and you'll never work a day in your life. But if you're doing it already, just to play on the other side of it, you're still enjoying it. You're still enjoying running the game. Would getting paid take away from that enjoyment?
Yes.
It depends on the situation. Like in your schedule, where you have no other time free. Like, I'll give you an example. I have 3.5 streams a week. And I say that because I usually have something special like every other week. Usually that makes it 4. If I go to 5 or 6, I'm getting thrown out of my house. Okay? My wife is chucking me out of the house at that point. That's life balance, right? So
sorry, go ahead, Jay.
No, go ahead. Go for it.
I always fall back on something that it's an anecdote from my past. So growing up from the ages of probably 6 or 7, I was a magician. That's what I did. That's literally what I did for not only for fun as a hobby, but eventually it transitioned over to a career. And I remember that moment when it transitioned over to that point. And then it turned to, well, I got to make money. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. And it killed the love for me. Yeah. It turned it into something where I was now a part of the rat race of something that I love to do. Granted, I did it incorrectly because I was young. I didn't know how to manage the landscape at that point in time. But there was a certain amount of that magic that was gone. No pun intended. For me, would I ever run a D&D game paid? I don't think so. Because, and there's one reason for that. There's no payment that you could give me that would give me more joy than introducing someone to this game. When they have that moment of finally knowing what D&D was all about, as opposed to just a bunch of books and a bunch of rules, and it's really, this is anything you want it to be. This is better than any video game out there. When they have that moment, that's so much more valuable to me than any dollar amount.
Cool.
I realize I need to. I think they're all good points, but I need to step in a little bit because I feel guilty because I actually have made role-playing games my profession now. I make maps for a living, so to speak.
Yeah,
so it's slightly different, but it's and I've actually run a few games that are being paid for. But I think for me, the distinction is that if I would go after as long as I'm paid so I can run games and do maps instead of having to do something else, go to Amazon and stack things on shelves or whatever, as long as it's what instead can work on my maps or something, then it's okay. Then I have no problem with it. But the day I feel like I need to do maps in order to get money just to do it, so to speak, and it becomes for profit, so to speak, if it becomes so I can avoid doing something else, then I'm happy with it. But if but it comes, yeah, if I have to start chasing map work to do in order to pay bills and stuff like that, like crazy, that would take away the joy. And also the life change in that way that now all of a sudden I have to change my life so I want to work. That's one of the meaning. I have to get other hobbies. I have to get another life. But the good thing for me is that I've had my hobbies have been my work for most of my life. So I've been so fortunate that things that I've been passionate about is something that I've been doing, whether it's flying airplanes or doing other crazy stuff, and then not doing fantasy cartography and stuff. But it's like David said, it's not for you when you're young, because if you go into just taking a passion and realize, because then managing the rest of your life becomes very, very important. So you want to work. So it's something that you want to do long term. You need to manage both the expectations and you need to manage your life, and that's a really tricky part. I've seen several other creators and stuff get burned out after a year or 2 years, and if you make it into a career, you have to start thinking 5 years, 10 years, and so you have to have a pace and an approach to it that you can stay in it for the long haul. And my problem is that I burn out every 2-3 days, and I need to take a step back and then start reading my emails and stuff again. And then I work for a couple of days, and then I take a day off and stuff. So find I see nothing wrong with it. I think some people are cut out to do their passion for the main thing in their life, so to speak. Others want to keep it as a side thing, so to speak. And
I perfect answer, because you hit on something that I forgot. It's all about the balance. Yeah. Right. It's the fact, going back to Paul's point of, I don't know if you can if you love what you do, never work a day in your life. Yeah. I think that's true, because let's face it. I mean, Jay, Paul, and myself all know is that at times we get paid for running our sessions on stream. Like that's how it happens. We get donations, we got subs, we get all of that stuff. Right?
That's what you do.
Correct.
Yeah,
we get paid for that. But at the same time, it's the fact that I'm not going out grinding to be like, I have to DM the next game. I have to DM the next game. And at that point in time, it loses its fun. If you can find the balance so that it works for you. And this is what I failed at when I was younger, because I was looking at it as, what's my next gig? Where's my next dollar coming from? Yeah. Right. So the fact is that once I get to a point of where I'm just doing at that point. And if I get paid for it, fantastic. But at the same time, if I'm grinding for it because it's a job, then I'm going to lose the passion for it. So that's kind of
I agree.
That's
I agree
the
100%.
And I guess we have to warn viewers of this, that trying to be a DM as a career is not a good career option financial wise. So to speak. It might be in the future, who can tell, so to speak. No one knew that DMD could be a spectator sport or like entertainment for the masses 10-20 years ago. So maybe they can definitely become a viable career, but it's not that way. But it can be a great extra second job or third job or something like that, you can, a hobby that it can pay for itself and then some, so to speak. Exactly. That could definitely be.
I'm gonna throw out the Twitch thing here. Let's eliminate Critical Role from this discussion.
Yeah, it's like sports, meaning there are a few sports stars that earn millions.
I don't know what you're talking about. 9.5 million in a year and a half. I have no idea what you're talking about.
The rest of us will never get there.
You can look at the numbers. There's sites that do that. So let's just put this in perspective so everyone can understand this. With Twitch, with the exception of Critical Role, and now that what's his name is gone, or Kadam's gone, right? Because of for the most part, there are no high generation income Twitch D&D only streamers. Most of them are the Shrouds of the world or whatever, who come in and play a D&D game once in a blue moon, right? And they still have 20,000 viewers. It is very, very rare to have millions and millions or hundreds of thousands of dollars on Twitch being in D&D, but that's okay. It really is, it's a passion, and that's fine. Like I said, we're not, I know that I'm not the next Critical Role, and I don't ever want to be that, because that is vaulted into another realm, and that's not what that's not what this stream's about, and that's not what me DMing or talking, doing stuff like that is about. It's
meaning earn as many millions as you want, as long as you keep the passion.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that
Yeah, we don't talk about arcade and Mandy. I understand that.
Yeah.
I agree 100%.
I think that Anna made a good point there and touched on it really briefly. That something that I know Dave and I are really, really passionate about. And actually, when I had Dave on the show on Hops and Dragons, one of the topics that we discussed was mental health in D&D and
Yes.
the topic of burning out. I mean,
Yep.
as you saw, what I mentioned earlier about the busy schedule that I have, I've certainly suffered from it. We've all know how demanding a streaming schedule while having other commitments in our lives are, right? And I think that it's something that we both and Dave, I don't want to speak for you, but I know we've had this conversation, but
No,
we both
you know what I want to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, we've both made a kind of had this reckoning of like hustle, grow the channel because it's something you're really passionate about and you love it. And I could work on Hops and Dragons every single day, all night, and do this full time and not do my other job or bartending or anything like that. But it's the idea of putting that carrot a little bit too far and trying to do the work and comparing yourself to somebody who's a little bit above or a little bit ahead, looking at numbers. I'm just talking about streaming right now. I'm not necessarily kind of taking a step away from the D&D conversation as well, but it applies as yeah. And I think that it applies as well with comparing yourself to some of the DMs that you watch is because of the fact that everyone's at different levels. Everybody has different styles. Everybody has different schedules. And I think that if you put that amount of time when you can't afford it, you end up in a situation where I ended up a couple weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago, where it just, it literally made myself sick because I had burnt out and I'd worked myself sick. So yeah. I think that's one of the things that I'm really passionate about, and I want to kind of push, not to be preachy, but I think it's we sacrifice our mental health a little bit too much sometimes to try and get ourselves to the next level, whether that's as a DM or as a streamer or anything like that as well.
Oh yeah.
I think we all need to be very careful of.
Well, it's the caveat at the same time of and this applies to every industry and every job, comparing yourself to others. And when you strive for that, as opposed to making your own road and making your own goals, there's a huge difference. Everyone in D&D Twitch is like Matt Mercer is the golden standard. And in fairness, he is an amazing DM. I will absolutely say he is phenomenal at what he does. But that doesn't mean you have to be the next him. You can do your own thing.
Something different because he already had that market cornered, so to speak. Or something.
Exactly. Do your own thing. Pave your own path. But do it at your own pace.
Yes.
That's the most important thing. Is that and that's exactly what Paul's saying, is that we face burnouts because we push as hard as we do. Because we're comparing ourselves to others sometimes.
Yeah. And David, I think that the pace you said, I think is a very key point, because what most people don't realize who come into this being a creator, whether you're a streamer or you do content or write adventures or modules or do art or whatever, it takes time. Meaning you don't become a one-hit wonder overnight, so to speak. Most of the people that I know that have reached the level where they can actually start earning real money in this, they have done it for 10, 20, 30 years. Meaning I did it for 20 years before I earned 1 penny. So once I reached the level I can actually start earning money, I pretty much knew what I was doing. And the other thing is that you can work really hard and the reward comes way later often. So the reward and the effort is not tied in time at all. You can often work hard especially when you do things like I do, you do art and maps and stuff. I can work really hard for 6 months, 8 months. I'm not even allowed to talk about it to anybody, and I can burn out and do it. And then all of a sudden, but I leave something to a publisher and nothing happens. And then they have a Kickstarter and everybody talking about it 9 months later. Oh, it's so cool. You must be busy working with it. And that's something that was history. And then you get reward and you get like the appreciation and people want to talk about it and stuff. So often the effort is not tied to the reward in time. It can be very, very different. And so that means that over time, you will have more of a legacy, meaning you have a whole catalog of stuff that you known for, so to speak. So that means that you don't have to work hard every day. It's a marathon. So work slow and
100%.
steady and keep it up, so to speak. The important.
You know, I don't mind pulling open the kimono for a second. I really don't at all. At the end of the day, yes. I mean, you know, our stream is going very well. Our Careful Cantrip is doing very well for itself. It's growing slowly. But they see that the public sees maybe 5 hours in total on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
The amount of work that we put in on the back end. This is a second full-time job for me, without question.
Yep.
You know, and not only myself, other people from my team we're working full-time all the time. I finish real work at 5 o'clock. I have dinner from 5 till 6, and then I'm working from 7 till at least 2 o'clock every single morning. And it bothers me sometimes because you're exactly right. There's never an overnight sensation. That never happens. There's always something behind it that has hours and hours and hours of work in it. And I can guarantee if I asked everybody on this panel right now, how much time do you work on stuff that isn't visible to the public?
Oh my!
You're doing the same thing.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
doing the exact same
lots
thing.
of it. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and Will just said that's one of the reasons he's not streaming anymore.
I'm studying
We'll have a
this
balance.
book. This is one of 3 that I'm going through and study it. It's a GIS course. So I'm basically taking a university class in GIS. I'm going to plow through them in the next 6 months and so I can know stuff, so to speak. So it's kind of that's part of stuff you have to learn. That is, and same thing if you're running a streamer, you have to learn video editing and you have to learn a whole bunch of stuff that takes hours
Social
and hours
media,
and hours.
all of those kind of things that are foreign to most people at the very beginning. You have to put the effort in. So, you know, to anyone out there who wants to become, you know, a streamer or content creator or anything along those lines, it's not hitting play and start stream or, you know, posting the YouTube. There is so much involved. And if you're okay with putting those hours in, then go for it. Here's a community that's willing to support you 100%. You know, I said this on stream today. I don't have competition. I have people that work with me.
Yeah.
You know, I will boost you as much as I possibly can.
Well, that's a secret.
That's what it boils down to.
So that's a secret that a lot of streamers don't get. I know a lot of streamers who will not raid into other streamers because they're afraid they're going to lose their audience, and I think that's total BS.
No,
I think that's the way you grow communities.
But it's a lot of positives doing stuff like this too. You get lots of friends, you get wonderful things, and you can work any 80 hours a week you like, any hours. So you don't have to, especially if you do content like art and stuff, you can work any hours you feel like. And you can work as many hours as you feel like whenever you want to. And a lot of times I can watch Netflix and listen to podcasts while I'm doing it. So yeah,
you're a great multitasker, Anna. So
all
right. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, Hops and Dragons was before we went live. There was we went live for the first time in September, 14, 15 months ago, whatever. We had done work. Myself and Tilly had done work on it since probably like actual hard regular work from like June onwards. And before that, it was, you know, maybe once a week or twice a week chatting and having a conversation. But then June onwards, it was build the brand, come up with a structure, come up with this. How would you do this? Get the tech and everything. Like it was a part-time job for 6 months before we even hit stream. So, but yeah. I feel like I'm complaining about it, but I also want to add that on my worst days, on my most stressful days, I hit the go live button and I see so many amazing people in the community. And by the end of that stream, I'm on cloud 9. I absolutely love it.
That's a fantastic point. There are those nights you're like, oh my God, but you have to do it. To be successful, you have to stream that night. And then you get into the flow of it. And then you're like, wow, I'm so glad I did that.
Someone sent an email saying that, oh, we love what you do. And we did this and this with it. And it was awesome. That makes me want to go again.
Changes everything. That one message.
Yep.
You impacted my life. Thank you.
Yeah,
Changes
exactly.
everything.
And it's not even just hey, this is fun content. I enjoy it. I enjoy your game, or I enjoy whatever. It's the, you know, the people that go, hey, I didn't really have a spot before this, and now I'm comfortable here. And you know, you guys and your community and our community together is where I feel comfortable online. And that to me, makes me want to come back. And like, so Tilly and I had a policy that if either one of us weren't feeling it, we wouldn't stream. You want to cancel? Okay, we'll cancel 5 minutes before the stream. That's fine.
Mhm.
And we still had that policy, but I haven't done it since since March, I think was the last time. And we would miss, maybe one stream every month or two. And the reason is like I said, it's the people that love being here, interacting with other people in the community, and all of us love D&D and TTRPGs, and we're all on the same page. We all want a safe space here where we can be friends with each other, right? And I think that's really important.
Yep.
It's
100% agree.
It's not counting the video game streamers because they're a whole different animal. It's the only way that the creative D&D community is going to be successful. All us as a whole, right? You have to be, because if we're all disjointed and we're all doing our own things and stuff, and we keep our little audience of 20, whatever, 50, it's just not going to work, And you have to have the community sense, or it's going to fail. It just is. You have to be there for people, and so
100%. Jay, it's the same reason why every single raid we've ever done is #CC Love Raid.
Yeah. Okay.
Because we never do hate raids, and we
No.
want to show the love to everyone else. This category is not big enough yet. That's changing, but we can't compete with League of Legends.
No,
we can't.
No.
We can't compete with Fortnite.
You can't compete with hot tub streamers.
We cannot compete with me, aka Amaranth, in my side persona.
I was gonna say, have you seen a Hops and Dragons After Hours stream yet? Come on.
You're in the hot tub. You have a hot tub there in Canada. You're hanging out in. That's awesome. That'd be great.
Tune in and see.
Oh my gosh!
Is this the final confirmation, Paul? I've been begging for like months now.
That's cool. All right, so I'm going to ask one final question. And while Anna, I'm gonna start Anna on it. I'm gonna try and get in and out in 30 seconds.
Okay.
Because I'm an old man, and you probably understand what I got to do for 30 seconds. So, Anna, well, thank you so very much, B-Town MC. Really
Awesome.
appreciate
Hey,
that, saying that for Dave. And Dave, wow, it's been so often you coming on last second. I really appreciate it.
Lots of love for our community. B-Town, love you, buddy.
Thank you. Yes, to Curtis, please. Give me what you think what you want the future to hold, whether it's WotC, 5e, your game, just a generalization on the discussion we had tonight about 5e and WotC and yourself as a DM. All right, I'll be right back. Start, Anna.
Okay, I was thinking that I want to see technology being used in a more tabletop friendly way, so to speak. I would love to see, I'm thinking about modern game engines and stuff like that. I would love to see some sort of synergy between using computer technology and visualized technology, but still keep all the cool concept of the tabletop gameplay, so to speak. So the primitive VDT and stuff we have today, that we can actually use them to enhance games. And I'm thinking especially visualization and record keeping, so to speak. What if we can have AI that could do session summary automatically, that could you can have like a transcript of everything that was said during the session, and you can just deep dive back into it, and cool technology that could not drag us over to the video game world, but could enhance the tabletop game experience, so to speak, with all the cool stuff that you use, so to speak, in the tabletop DM, so to speak. So you kind of enhance it with cool visuals when you want to, and you can automatically get all the stuff in there and kept, so to speak. So you can have a perfect record of your campaign without too much effort and stuff like that.
That reminds me of that anime Sword Art Online, where it's the nerve gear. You put it on and you like basically become the character at that point in time. Night Anna. Not this Anna, different Anna.
She turns my lights off every time she goes to bed. It's smart lights. So,
Awesome.
hey Google, turn on lights. Sorry for anybody's lights I just turned on.
See, AI can go wrong. What can go wrong when you do
right?
that?
Right. Oh, amazing. I think, technology is the future for everyone. And if we can push ourselves further to that extent, I think that only benefits us all in so many different ways.
Yeah, no, and for sure too. And I watched an episode there on your YouTube here, and you guys were talking about similar things about technology in the future and everything, and I couldn't agree more. And I hate to kind of piggyback on it, but Tilly and I were talking before I came on, and that was one of the topics that I was going to bring up was definitely trying to incorporate that a little bit more, and even starting like what I would love to see is incorporating the different assets that exist into something that all works together a little bit better, whether that's D&D Beyond and the other, like if there's another tabletop, a VTT or something, and all these different tools. It's hard as a DM if you want to do it digitally, because one of my campaigns is virtual, one of them is in person, to have to have 30 tabs open. It's just let me do this all in one spot kind of thing. That's what I would love to see. But I think you made a really good point about having some sort of machine learning technology or something that would allow you to take all of the notes and the transcripts or even like combat encounters, like a summary of a combat encounter, so you can look at it afterwards in a summary and be able to see it instead of just being drowning in so much information. Right. And I'd also like to point out that Jay left and we got a hype train started. So
did you see that? It's called, for now it's called the peeing hype train, because they go off. So
there you go.
Yes, I really appreciate it, everyone. Thank you for your generosity tonight.
Absolutely. Before I kind of jump into my answer, just shadowing Jay, you guys are all fantastic. You're all amazing. Thank you so much for supporting not only Jay, but everything that we do on here. And it leads into this 100% leads into my answer of what I want to see different. Over the last year, we've faced certain divides within this community. There's been a lot of bad press in certain areas, especially the older generation of D&D, I want to see us come together as a tribe finally. I don't care if you're first edition, second edition, third edition, fourth edition, or fifth edition. We all play the same game. We all are part of the same community. The fact that we attack our brethren and sisters for anything, their characters might be off. Their characters might be bad, but that's one person in the grand scheme of things. We have so much to learn from one another. And tonight is a perfect example. I learned so much from Jay and Anna about the techniques of older editions that I am going to now turn around and apply to my game, which is 5e. And vice versa. They might have learned a thing or two as well.
Definitely.
Or I might have just been talking out my ass.
No, this is one of the reasons why we want to have these discussions. We want to share ideas. We want to share techniques, ideas.
At the end of the day, we are all one people. Give yourself to that. There's bad apples. There's always going to be bad apples. It doesn't matter where you go. But we're all here together. We're all part of the same community. We are not competing. Enjoy the community that's putting in front and bolster it as best as you can. Whatever the future holds.
I
couldn't agree more.
And there's a Gary Julian Pluffett Smedger sighting just now. So
cool.
That was very eloquently put, Dave, and I really appreciate it. All the points, and it's true of the communities. So Gary, if you don't know, Living Girl Gazetteer, there we go. Gary Julian, right there. First, right before Eric Mona's name. So who now runs Pathfinder. Wonderful. This community has these people. You've seen Luke on here tonight, Gary, a bunch of others. We need to grow it so that everyone feels like they have a place, all editions, and that there's can be a exchange of thoughts, right? For better, for worse. Sometimes there may be some arguments, but healthy dialogue is a good thing, and that's what I really look forward to, and that's why I love having these DMs roundtables. We've had some really unbelievable people on in the previous 8, and I think this one has been just as successful. Number 9 here, and every 2 to 3 months, down the road. I guess it's every 3 to 4 months now, Anna, right? Yeah, 9.
Yeah,
10,
something like
yeah,
that.
something like that.
Like 4
We'll
times
do a
a
10th
year.
one,
roughly.
and
Yeah.
we'll have another topic. And Mandy brought up a great topic for under mental health, and we could have Ann
Yeah.
back, who's actually from Nightheart
Yeah.
Gaming, who's actually a psychologist. So,
Mhm.
but 5e has the most new victims. I mean, new fans. Thanks, Gary. Yes, Gary's an old schooler too, but a third edition guy as well. So, I really want to say thanks to everyone who's made this show extremely possible. I mean, the numbers have been going up all night. This is fantastic participation from all the communities. I want to say thank you to Darling, and thank you to Paul, and thank you to Dave, who's your communities have joined in obviously in these conversations. We've seen so many new people in chat tonight. We'd love to always return that favor at a future point. Bring in our Greyhawk. The Greyhawk community is one thing, and that is loyal, right? Loyal and really excited about great content. So what I would suggest is, I have Virtual GreyhawkCon. I know we just had it in October, but there's always, I have fundraisers, I have events. Get your streams involved in maybe in a one shot. I know Mandy did that during GreyhawkCon, and now Mandy's when she ran into the Lizard King, and that's just, it's a step in the door, just even if it's once in a blue moon. Thank you. I really am appreciative. So why don't we'll do some shout outs. What's going on in your world? So Paul, why don't we start off with you and Hops and Dragons? What do you got coming up for the community on your stream? What's going on?
What do we have coming up from the
what's going on, man?
Tilly is in our chat, so he can probably tell me, tell me what's coming up if I forget. So we stream every Thursdays. Tilly's going to be home this week, so we're going to be streaming a regular episode where we talk about it. It is a 5th edition stream because that's what we both play.
Yeah.
But we'll be doing that. He's going to be home this week, and then there's going to be the next December's schedule is a little bit weird for us, but we're going to have a couple guests on. And then we're going to do a Christmas stream on the 23rd. That is a kind of a little bit of a holiday, an unofficial holiday.
That's
here
a Wednesday.
Thursday.
Thursday. That's a Thursday. That's Thursday. Okay,
yeah.
It's Thursday. Yeah. All
right. So we we'll be doing
Thursday.
that. We're talking about doing we tossed the ideas around, so this is unofficial. So you're seeing behind the veil here for a second, but the idea of Hopsmas, where we do some giveaways in Christmas. But we gotta nail down the details of that, and I know it's the 28th, so December's coming very quickly.
It's crazy how fast things are coming, man.
I know, it's wild, but yeah, I think we've got some fun stuff going on, and some really, really big guests that are coming on as well in December and January. So we've got guests booked out now until March for the Random Encounters episodes. So that's what we've got coming up.
My invitation there to come on right before, on a Thursday is open too, man. I'll squeeze it in before I go live somehow.
I would absolutely love to, and I certainly hope we can work something out for sure.
And I really appreciate you coming on tonight. Been a fantastic guest, and have some really wonderful points, and having Big Tilly sitting wherever he is on the other side of Canada, right? So thank you both for participating, and all your community as well. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for the invite. I was excited when you mentioned it, so thank you.
Our pleasure. David, and thank you. Coming on last second. What a wonderful and thank you as well to Paul for making that recommendation.
Well, first and foremost, Jay, thank you so much for having us, and thank you for giving more optics to the game that we all love. On behalf of not only the panel, but the chat as well. You do a wonderful thing, so thank you. In terms of me, myself, and I, first and foremost, I'm sorry for everyone for being so passionate about this game and sometimes having controversial opinions and ideas. But, that's the one great thing about this game, is that I don't ever think that there's a right or wrong answer. I think there's just moments for us to learn from, and take that into your game as what you will. I also want to thank all of the players out there for allowing us to have the positions as DMs that we do. We don't do this without you. Like I said earlier, without you, we're authors. So thank you for bringing joy into all of our lives, and I speak on every DM's behalf for that. in terms of Careful Cantrip, we're doing more of the same thing. We're playing games. We're giving as much visibility to this game as possible. We have taken the position of we want to be advocates for this game and every element of it, whether it be living out your greatest fantasies, reaching a level of potential you didn't think you could, or just finding a community that's accepting of you. That's what Careful Cantrip was built for, and that's what we continue to do. We have Funge and Feud, which is a fun little game show that Jay will have to talk about, see if you want to come play potentially some kind. But at the same time, we're just happy to be here, and we're happy you're all here with us to enjoy it.
Thank you. Very kind of you, and very some very eloquent words stated tonight, and I really appreciate the participation. And I know our community can sense the passion you have, and that's a wonderful thing. And I really appreciate it. I know Anna does too. I'm hoping Anna. Yeah,
this was awesome. Oh, this was fantastic. Yeah.
So Anna, what's going on?
Well, I've actually run 2 sessions back to back. So one yesterday and one today in my campaign. And now it's starting to heat up. The one of the parties have reached the Dragonhide Caves. It's one of my inventions in the Southern Shieldlands. And that forced me to map out a whole cave system in there that is tied into old Flan history. And the idea was that some of the characters have a druid and a couple of rangers who wanted to join up the old faith and boost their credentials. So they wanted, and these caves were originally expanded from natural caves back 2,000 years ago in order to hide from Dragatha and Caraptus when their rule was over the area, so to speak. Therefore, the name Dragonhide Caves. And they also have some other secrets, and I'm not going to spill too many right now. There's some other secrets in those caves that are tied to ancient Flan history. That means that NIUs have tried to lay his hands on the caves and for quite some time and failed, and he's not the first one. So they've been staunchly defended for almost 2,000 years, and now the Shieldlanders have put their hat in the basket, so to speak, or whatever you say in English, to kind of screw it up. And the players or the party is now in the middle of a big fight over who's going to control Southern Shieldland between the Shieldlanders and IUs. And since the players also roll for various faction roles, and they've been racing, both factions have gone like this. So it's like an escalating Cold War that is about to explode. And there are thousands of humanoids and other nasty stuff outside wanting to storm the caves, and they're in there, and shit is going to hit the fan big time. What they don't know that there are some secret friends around too on their side, but don't say too much. And that's part of the other party was trying to get to the caves, and they were kind of thwarted a little bit and too spooked, so they're probably running back home again, but they're on the second level. So that's up in my campaign. But on the mapping front, more heraldry. I'm so glad that people liked my patrons, and the rest of you haven't seen it yet, but there's a whole new range of, I've only shown 2 shields, but there will be a whole range. I probably have like 30 or so done I've done new versions of the heraldry, like their real heraldry, like what the shields will actually look like in real world, and they're kind of cool. That's a little example of it, but I've reworked the heraldry for various Greyhawk heraldry, and also added some extra into it. So there will be a whole series released. To the first one's batch for public consumption in a few days. And they have Mona Land, and the map expansion is progressing. A few days well, I don't have a shield for Blue Bay yet, Ancient Patrick. You have to provide me with an idea what it's supposed to look like, and we make one. Yeah. So
we need to walk before we run here, Patrick. Come on, man.
Exactly. Yes. Yep. So give me the story and the description of what you want it to look like, and then we'll make one. So that's awesome. And
we're getting there.
Yep. So I've introduced in my campaign. I haven't showed it. There are some Dragotha heraldry, and for
Just
cult
messing with you,
of the Dragotha, there are some Caraptis heraldry from the cult of Caraptis and stuff. I haven't shown to anyone yet, not even my players. That is coming too, and Old Faith heraldry and stuff, and also Hypmonaland terrain is almost done. So just hang in there a little bit longer, and my patrons will see the new updated terrain for Hypmonaland, and then as we come into December, it will move over to getting all the new place names and typos and changed roads and stuff like that. And the Isle of Dread and stuff, the terrain is almost completely done too. So it's going to be an map expansion of about 50%. So moving into it, and I'll see if I can get Dwayne Costa in on, and we can start working on the index for the atlas as well.
Nice.
And I'm going to skip the heraldry. There will be a heraldry compendium coming out next year with all the new cool versions of the heraldry. So yeah. So that is a little bit of it. And there will be a mapping live stream upcoming week too, probably on Friday, but I'm not 100% sure, but that will be the aim to be. We didn't have one last week because I wanted to watch BattleTech and spread my some points and stuff. That was fun.
Yes, you spammed us on
I had 100,000 points, channel points, so I realized what the heck, now burned them. So so I kept burning them through the evening.
We had a fun time on Friday.
Yep, that was good. So it's I'm sorry for a lack of updates. It's because there will be big things dumping when the big map. Not every year I've expanded the map 50%, so to speak. So there is more coming. So there will be fun to have a 2022 version of updated version of the map, including a new Hypmonaland map coming in January for everybody and my patrons in December. Yep.
So what Anna forgot to mention, and because I don't have the banner yet, is the Fantasy Mapping Show is going to be December 17th for this month, because it's once a month with Alyssa Fade and Anna Meyer and myself, and it is about publishers. So we're going to have people from Troller Games and Frog God Games both there, and it's going to be a giveaway bonanza for Christmas, for the holiday season. I don't even know. We may have as many as 20 giveaways that night. So just letting you know, that'll be a crazy one, because I pound the hell out of the sponsors, right? So absolutely.
And we want to hear what publishers, what they think about map making and what to have in their products, and what goes into their consideration and so on, both for players and DMs, but also for budding cartographers. What do you kind of maps do you want to? What do they want, so to speak, and what should you produce in order to get your maps into their products?
So that'll be on the 17th. I'll make sure we have the banner for Wednesday night show. All right, so here's what's going on here. Thank you, wonderful one. This was fantastic tonight. I really appreciate everyone's participation. I'll go through this real quick. They've been scrolling through. Wednesday night is a great show. We have hopefully this is the right one. We're going to talk. Hey, Feywild books are all over the place. Excuse me. The Fae of Greyhawk started in the early 2000s in Geoff during Living Greyhawk, and Eric Mengi and Jose Ortiz are going to be our guests on Legends and Lore Wednesday night with myself, Anna, and Greyhawk Mike Bridges, and they're going to go over what the Fae was about during that era, and maybe share some things that we could utilize for you all, and that is Wednesday. All right, and that for this week, and I think I just removed my scroller by accident, and oh well, it's not a big deal at this point. So that's first thing. Next, we have on Thursday a new adventure, the Narwhal Headhunters, Rangers of Arkwood. First, it'll be 2 to 3 weeks long. This one, the Narwhal Headhunters will be back out of the Wild Coast. That'll be a fun one. The characters are between 3rd and 5th levels, just so you know where we're falling in on that one. So as we head back to our wonderful Narwhal next Sunday, let me shout this one out here for everyone. Yes, Ed Greenwood returns again, because Ed just can't get enough of us in this community, which I am grateful for. Secret Societies at Greyhawk in the Realm. So we have Eric Mengi, who works with Ed, and Ed Greenwood on and we're going to talk about the Harpers, and we're going to talk about the Seers, sages, all the secret guilds and stuff. It'll be a fantastic discussion. Plus, Ed has promised us some lore, some new lore for Greyhawk he's going to create as well. So that'll be next Sunday. Skipping way ahead, the next All-Star event, because of the way things fall, is going to be on the 18th, the night after the Fantasy Mapping Show. And this is the one that Darling cannot participate in. So we have Mandy, Little Bones, Myriad X, Time Lord's wife, all with their characters in the Slav Squat Squad. Right? Oh my God, I can't even say that. And so we will see that.
That should have been one of the questions for tonight for
oh
Yeah.
my
to
gosh.
see if we could say that.
Oh, I didn't erase it. That's
3
good.
times fast.
3 times, 5 times, yes. So that will be on Saturday nights. Probably the only Saturday night special I'll have because of just the way the holidays fall this month. I may bring in a special one-time guest in the group to take Rosie's place, but Rosie will be in the adventure, I promise. And
Pick me.
and if you
Pick me.
look in the lower
Yes.
left-hand corner, you see this little town, Happy Springs, that I had Anna add to the map here, a halfling community. Well, there you go. You're going to see what the dead don't rest easy, and they're going to go. The adventurers are going to go to Happy Springs, so you can put 2 and 2 together on what torture I'm going to put through these players. Little Bones, proud of you saying that one, Jay. Well, thank you. I'm trying to be one of you. All right, thanks all. Let's do the giveaways. All right. Got let me shutting them down here. We have 1 physical, and we have 2 digitals. If you are from a country where I got a huge shipping, please, if you can, take a Starship Warden. So we're going to do 2 Starship Wardens from Troll Lord Games. It's 650 plus pages, and then these 2 books together is a third one, reprints. Greyhawk Adventure Begins, and Len Lekofka's wonderful, legendary Secret of Bone Hill, a great adventure. So closing it out, let me throw up the Starship Warden pick real quick, just so everyone knows what I am talking about. Has been scrolling through. There you go. The Starship Warden. Fantastic. Okay. Shut this out. Have you guys ever crashed a stream when doing giveaways with this? I do this all the time. Cathay, I think you're in, man.
Yeah, Jay, you crashed the stream.
Darling. Okay, so Darling is streaming, so she's excused. So I'm gonna give her. I'm gonna give her one of the wardens. Yeah, Darling. That's yeah, because she grats. That's funny. Next winner, Curtis.
Congratulations,
Congrats,
Curtis.
Curtis. What do you want, Curtis?
Congratulations.
Yeah, she's gonna be excited there, Bones. We're gonna raid into her, so sit tight here. Curtis, what would you like? Curtis, you want which one do you want? Do you want the Starship Warden or do you want the 2 reprints? You tell me, okay? As I do the third and final winner here for tonight. Curtis, I just saw Curtis chatting. Awesome. Okay, and just tell me which one, please. Bogart _34. That's a fairly new name. Bogart _34. It's all random in Streamlabs. I use XSplit and import that in. Let me check and see Bogart 34 on. He's on. Okay. 2 reprints. Got it, Curtis. Do I have your address? I may. If not, just whisper it to me. And Bogart, you got the other Starship Warden. And if Bogart, make sure I have your email because I'd rather send an email or Discord. Thank you. Thank you all. I'm so ecstatic about making new connections tonight. Once again, Dave, Paul, and Darling, and Anna, thank you for a wonderful discussion.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Jay, and thank you, Dave.
Let's
and Paul.
raid
This was
into
awesome.
let's raid into Darling, who's on now with over 100 people. How's that sound?
Let's do it.
Let's
everyone
do
follow.
this.
Everyone in the chat right now, make sure you immediately hit follow.
Yeah, please.
Blow up
And
their
then
stream.
Blow it up.
absolutely.
And she's a fairly new streamer, so this would be huge to her. So, all right, here we go. Now I've hit the wrong button once tonight. I'm gonna make sure I don't hit the
We believe in you, Jay.
wrong button tonight. So we'll see you all Wednesday night here. But please support all the streams you've seen tonight. Follow all of them, please. I Would appreciate it. All right, setting up the raid.
Just one button.
Yes.
You do.
You never know.
Yep.
We believe you.
Here it comes. I want to see over 100.
Let's do it. Come on, chat.
90,
Follow.
97,
97.
98, 100!
We did it.
Right on the oh, without a 99! Oh my, there's 100. 5,
Yes.
4,
Here we
3,
go. There we go.
2, 1. Oh, I went back down again. See
Oh, wait,
you,
no,
see
it went up
Wednesday.
again.
Yeah, I
went
just
up.
hit it to make sure we got it.
100. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, let me make sure you went.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Rating your party on 100. Perfect.
Yeah, there we go. Awesome.
yeah, let me go here. Let me go here. Let me shut
Oh,
this off.
I'm already damn it, I'm already falling.
Oh, thank you guys. This was so much fun.
This was a
Awesome.
lot of fun.
Discussion.
Thank you guys. And I'm sorry if I became a little debative at times.
No.
No, it was
it's part
good.
of
It
the
was great. I
discussion.
loved it. I loved it.
part
It
of
was,
the
it was
discussion,
awesome.
man.
Yep.
All right.
It was so
All right.
good.
have
As long
to.
as I didn't offend, that's
No,
No,
that
not
matters.
at all.
You have to be that way. I mean, we want a real discussion here.
Exactly.
We want,
That enhanced
you
it.
know-
That made sure that it was not just like we sit and blew sunshine at each other. It was good. Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, because
absolutely.
I think if you're not having that conversation, then it's just 4 or 5 talking heads just saying
Mhm.
things and then just
Yep.
okay, next topic kind of thing. It's,
Yep.
I like
Yeah.
that, and I knew that when I recommended Dave that he
was
would,
perfect.
he would
Yeah,
provoke some thought there as well,
Mhm.
which is nice. But
Yeah, it was
absolutely perfect. So, Dave, note that I have someone online for that 18th game, but if they can't make it, then I'm going to you next. Okay, since you shouted
Absolutely.
it out.
I was just
Okay.
kidding around.
No,
because
yeah.
Do it for the stream. Do it for the
Now
stream.
I'm getting so curious. I need to start watching both of you because this has been such an awesome
Yes.
discussion with so many cool things. So I'm getting
That's the
so
thing, Anna. You know, we
Yeah.
have so many,
and especially
you know,
talk shows and stuff. It's like, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
it's great to see some other perspectives. It's great.
Mhm.
It's great for others. You know, to really get into. Now, am I still broadcasting? Holy shit, I am.
Okay.